Chapter 599. The mountain was empty and the drizzle was hazy, causing one's mood to be a bit melancholy. Hou Zhendong, the martial fanatic, was not only feeling melancholy, he also wanted to die. If the person you tricked before was now sitting in front of you and calling you senior martial fanatic, you would also want to die. Or you would kill the other party. Hou Zhendong regretted it. Why didn't he kill him at the summit of One Sword Peak? Senior martial fanatic. Fang Yan looked at Hou Zhendong with a smile as if he couldn't remember that he was tricked by this middle-aged man. This is an adult ambergris I stole from Tianjizi. Not bad, right? The tea was good, fragrant, and had the effect of nourishing the body and mind. But the martial fanatic who was chewing on a piece of tea leaf had a bitter taste in his mouth. With Fang Yan's intelligence, there was no way he didn't know why he lured him to One Sword Peak for the decisive battle, and what happened afterward almost took his life. But now he acted as if nothing happened and was very respectful to him. His attitude was even more cordial than before, and he even gave him a priceless ambergris. There must be a reason for this. This brat had something to ask of him. This is the best ambergris I've ever tasted. The martial fanatic looked at Fang Yan indifferently and said, "It is said that Buddhism and Taoism occupy most of the famous mountains and treasures in Wuxia. Take this ambergris for example. If Tianjizi didn't take it from Taoism, we wouldn't have the fortune to taste it. Senior martial fanatic, if you like it, I can ask my master for a box." Fang Yan patted his chest confidently. "Tianjizi is your master?" The martial fanatic was startled and asked. "Yes," Fang Yan nodded. He had long felt that I was extremely talented and the new star of the Tai Chi branch. He had always wanted to take me as his disciple and even said that he would give me the Tai Chi diagram to protect the dragon soul. He also said that he wanted me to inherit his legacy and become the master of Taoism, but I didn't agree. I already have a master. How could he take someone else as his master? Besides, I don't want to be a Taoist priest. I'm the only child in my family. What if they don't allow me to marry? You know what happened next? I was besieged by people in the solitary sword mountain and almost lost my life. It was he and Great Master Changmei who saved me. When he healed my wounds, he once again offered to take me as his disciple. I couldn't refuse." The martial addict nodded and said, "No wonder. No wonder." Previously he had wondered why Tianjizi and Changmei, the two hidden masters, had appeared at the same time when Fang Yan was in trouble and insisted on taking Fang Yan away. When he mistakenly believed that Fang Yan was dead, he even did not hesitate to fight with the Tao addict song transplanting. Now he finally understood the crux of the matter. It turned out that Fang Yan and Tianjizi had a master-disciple relationship. Tianjizi is one of the 3G in the 3G and 7 mysteries of Taoism. He is the most likely candidate to inherit my master's mantle and become the new master of Taoism. You took him as your master because you held on to a very thick thigh. Although Monk Changmei doesn't ask about the affairs of Buddhism, as long as it's something he cares about, it's a big event of Buddhism. Neither of them holds a post in the sect, but they are responsible for the important task of finding a suitable successor for the Tai Chi diagram. The candidates chosen by them are all outstanding talents of the whole era. Qin Zongma hundreds of years ago, Zhou Xian the madman 100 years ago, and your eldest brother Imochingdi. Which one of them is not an influential figure of the whole era? When they call for help, people will gather. They are the pillars of the whole Wuxia and the whole internal Jianghu. Fang Yan was shocked and asked, "Imochingdi once got the Tai Chi diagram. You don't know?" This time it was the martial addict who was a little confused and asked. After thinking for a while, he smiled and said, "That's right, this kind of thing shouldn't be told to you in the first place. For us martial artists who pursue the path of martial arts, the Tai Chi diagram is a treasure. A man is innocent but he gets into trouble because of his wealth. It's too dangerous. You are the only son of the Fang clan. If you get involved in trouble, I'm afraid your life will be in danger. You'll end your life early." Fang Yan's face was even more gloomy and asked, "Did the dragon god cut Imochingdi's tendons because he wanted to get the Tai Chi diagram?" "I don't know." The martial addict shook his head. "If there's a chance you can ask him yourself, but I advise you not to meet him." "What kind of people are they?" "Legendary figures." "How are they compared to Song Zhanxing?" "How?" The martial addict smiled helplessly. "These people are mysterious unless they want to see you or you can't see them. The Black Dragon has been famous for decades. How many people can see him?" Without a competition, how can you know who is strong and who is weak? Even if they were weak before, it's not impossible for them to become strong now. Everyone has their own opportunities and it's not impossible to surpass them overnight. Fang Yan nodded and said, I understand. But I still hope to meet the dragon god, the men of the Fang clan. The martial addict sighed softly. In the end he didn't finish his sentence. The Fang Hui he knew was a stubborn man, the Azure Dragon Imochingdi he knew was a stubborn man, and the Fang Yan he knew was also a stubborn man. He didn't know if stubbornness was a good habit, but stubborn men sometimes made people feel sexy. The men of the Fang clan are a bit stupid. Fang Yan said. I know, that's why I'm here to visit Senior Martial Addict, to ask you to help me do something stupid. It's finally here. The martial addict picked up his cup and drank some tea, then said, What kind of stupid thing do you want to do? Tell me first, I'll help if I can, but if I can't then there's nothing I can do. Where's Phoenix? Fang Yan asked. Where is Phoenix? Fang Yan asked again. The martial addict shook his head and said, I don't know. I've never seen her. Senior Martial Addict, why do you need to deceive yourself and others? The first time I asked you refused to answer, which already told me the answer. Also, I was saved by Master Tianjizi, so that old man Song Zaniong couldn't have taken Phoenix away. At the time there were so many people on One Sword Peak, but the only one who could have taken Phoenix away and protected her was you. Senior Martial Addict, please tell me, where is Phoenix? The Martial Addict sighed softly and said, You're right, Phoenix was indeed taken away by me. But don't ask me where she went. Phoenix Girl specifically told me that if you came looking for her, I should reply with the words I don't know. So my answer can only be, Fang Yan interrupted the Martial Addict and said, You tricked me at the top of One Sword Peak. You are one of the 7 addicts of Wuxia. You became known as the Martial Addict because of your love for martial arts. But you used your reputation as a martial arts addict to accept money from others, using all kinds of improper means to eliminate your opponents. I've confiscated money from others. Then there are other benefits. Fang Yan angrily said, You tricked me at the top of One Sword Peak anyway. You deliberately provoked me, inviting me to fight at the top of One Sword Peak, wasting my energy and drawing me into that fatal trap. You also know that I didn't use my full strength at the time and I didn't have any intention to kill. But you still did it in the end. You were an accomplice, the main participant. You made me unable to fight back when I was being hunted down. Don't tell me you don't feel guilty at all? Don't you blame yourself at all? How could the martial addict not blame himself? If it wasn't because of self-blame, why would he repeatedly speak up for Fang Yan in front of Song Zaniong? If it wasn't because of guilt, why would he stand in front of Song Zaniong again and again, not wanting him to kill Fang Yan? If it wasn't because of guilt and self-blame, feeling that he had done something shameful and unfair to Fang Yan, why would he persist until the end at the scene and then bring the Phoenix Girl back to take care of her? But I don't blame you. Fang Yan said. Living in this world, everyone will encounter some things that they have no choice but to do. Yes. The martial addict wanted to explain something, but he didn't know what to say. People who practiced martial arts valued friendship above all else. In order to return someone else's favor, he hurt the righteousness in his heart. Was this right or wrong? But if it was for the righteousness in his heart, could he ignore the deep feelings he owed? If it wasn't for Song Zanyang's guidance that year, he might have been stuck in the martial barrier, unable to extricate himself, and become a psychopath who achieved nothing. Song Zanyang had given him a new lease on life. What happened in the past has happened, we don't need to take it to heart. What's in the past is in the past. Fang Yan had a magnanimous look on his face, his voice mournful. But another tragedy is about to happen. Does Senior Martial Addict want to trick me again? Lotus Temple, the Martial Addict replied. She went to Lotus Temple. Fang Yan jumped up from his chair, grabbed the dragon birth incense he gave to the Martial Addict and shouted at the Martial Addict. That old bastard tricked me at the top of One Sword Peak. Wait until I'm done with my business, then I'll come find you for a good fight. Fang Yan was a man who held grudges. He was almost tricked to death by the martial addict Hou Zhendong at the top of One Sword Peak. How could such a deep grudge be resolved with just a few words? The martial addict held his teacup and blankly sat there. The cold wind was a bit chilly. The martial addict's body felt like it was frozen. How did that bastard grow up to be an adult? Didn't anyone think about strangling him to death when he was young? Chapter 600. Burning the bridge after crossing the river, killing the donkey after it has outlived its usefulness, cruel and unscrupulous bastard. Just as the martial addict was going berserk in the house, scolding Fang Yan for turning his back on him after using him, the wooden door was slammed open again with a bang. Fang Yan looked at the martial addict shyly and asked, "Where is the Lotus Temple?" After Fang Yan ran out of the martial addict's house, he remembered a very important thing. Where was the Lotus Temple? Although he was reluctant, he had no choice but to rush back to ask for the address and directions. Impulse is the devil. Get out. The martial addict shouted at Fang Yan. The Lotus Temple was located at the foot of Mount Lingshan. It got its name because there was a huge lotus pond in the backyard of the temple. The Lotus Temple was a nunnery. The incense was not strong, but it still stood for hundreds of years. Fang Yan rushed all the way in the direction of the Lotus Temple. The stingy martial addict did not tell him the specific direction of the Lotus Temple. Fang Yan did not have a mobile phone or a navigation device. It was not easy to find someone to ask in this barren mountain. Fortunately, he was lucky. After searching for a long time, he saw a stone sign on the side of a main road. The stone sign pointed the direction of the Lotus Temple. Only then did Fang Yan find the correct path. When Fang Yan arrived at the Lotus Temple, the brown door of the temple was closed. Fang Yan pulled the copper lock and shouted, "Is there anyone? Is there anyone?" There was no answer. Fang Yan patted the wooden door again and shouted in a louder voice, "Open the door. Phoenix, Phoenix, come out. Phoenix, I know you are inside." Fang Yan's voice startled the birds in the forest, and the rustling sounds of birds flying away could be heard. There was still no answer. Fang Yan pressed his hand on the wooden door and pushed it with all his might, but the wooden door did not budge. The wooden door looked old, but it was still very sturdy. Moreover, Fang Yan's physical injuries were quite serious. Although Tianjizi used golden needles to dredge his acupoints and circulate his blood every day, he could only ensure that he could move freely on the ground. It would still be a long process for him to recover and use his strength again. With Fang Yan's current physical condition, it would be difficult for him to even deal with a strong man. It was impossible to push down this door. He ran over and walked along the high walls of the Lotus Flower Temple for a while, then helplessly ran to the front door. He knocked on the door lock again and shouted, "Phoenix, come out quickly. Senior martial addict has told me that you are hiding inside. Master, please open the door. Master, my girlfriend is inside. She quarreled with me and ran away. If she makes any unreasonable requests, you must not agree. Phoenix, come out quickly. You're pregnant with my child. You can't shave your head and become a nun. The child can't have a nun mother. How can you go out and meet people in the future? Abbess, please open the door and let me in. Nuns, please answer me. Is there anyone inside? Abbess, let me in. Let me go in and talk to my girlfriend. Old nuns, open the door quickly. Otherwise, I will burn down your broken temple. Don't think that I don't dare. I, Jiang Junling, can do anything." The wooden door was finally opened from the inside. A middle-aged nun in a plain robe and a round hat stood at the door, staring at Fang Yan angrily. "Abbess, is my girlfriend inside?" When Fang Yan spoke, he wanted to squeeze in from the side of the middle-aged nun. The middle-aged nun reached out and pushed Fang Yan's body out. He had some martial arts skills when she made a move. Fang Yan's body staggered back and said angrily, "What's so great about a little martial arts? Do you know who I am? I'm Jiang Junling from a wealthy family in Yanjing. I'm telling you, don't mess with me." The middle-aged nun glanced at Fang Yan coldly and said, "Jiang Junling, didn't you want to burn down the temple? Do you still want to burn it? Do you think I don't dare? I just didn't bring a fire." Pa. The nun raised her right hand and a box-shaped object fell into Fang Yan's hand. "I have a fire here," the nun said. This nun was quite a character. Fang Yan held a box of matches in his hand and was trembling with anger. He growled at the middle-aged nun, "Do you think I have to burn it just because you want me to? Who do you think you are? Are you a monk or not? How can you instigate others to burn someone's temple? Do you know that you are violating the precepts? Buddha will punish you." Good. The middle-aged nun stared at Fang Yan coldly and said, "Go back. The female benefactor said that she doesn't want to see you. I know she doesn't want to see me." Fang Yan said with a serious face. "But I want to see her. And I have to see her." The frost on the middle-aged nun's face became thicker. Although it was said that monks should be compassionate and shouldn't have murderous thoughts, she couldn't help but want to be brutal to Fang Yan. Fang Yan saw the expression on the middle-aged nun's face and said in a deep voice, "Master, I'm not joking with you. I want to see her and I have to see her. Let me go in and take a look. Let me say a few words to her. I know that since she came here, it means that she has made a choice in her heart. I just want to say a few more words to her and persuade her." The middle-aged nun's face eased a little. She looked at Fang Yan and said, "Since you know that she has made a decision, why do you still force her? She doesn't want to see you and I can't do anything about it. Go back. Master, please help us. I can't live without her. If she becomes a nun, I won't be able to live. I'm sorry, I can't help you. From now on, our fate will be over. Take care of yourselves. Old nun, are you going to let me in or not? My girlfriend wants to become a nun. What's wrong with me going in to persuade her? Is your nunnery a black temple? You can only go in but you don't want people to go out? How many people do you need? Otherwise you will also recruit me, presumptuous." The middle-aged nun raised her palm and was about to slap Fang Yan again. Fang Yan turned and ran. The middle-aged nun chased out of the door. After Fang Yan took her in a circle, he seized the opportunity to turn around and went into the gate of Lotus Flower Temple. "Catch up. Stop." The middle-aged nun was so angry that she was about to go crazy. She chased after Fang Yan and shouted loudly. Fang Yan ran to the door of the temple hall and stopped. Amitabha, Amitabha, Amitabha. Fang Yan put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha in the temple hall. He had to stop because he was surrounded by a group of nuns. The skinny old nun who was the leader looked at Fang Yan and said, "Benefactor, trespassing is forbidden in a Buddhist place. Benefactor, please step out of the door and give us pitiful people a peaceful place." Fang Yan put his palms together and saluted the old nun, saying, "Master, I just want to see a friend, please help me. It's not that I don't want to help you, but I can't force others to help you. What if your friend doesn't want to see you? What should I do?" The nun asked. "Then let her come out and tell me that she doesn't want to see me." "Benefactor, you are making things difficult for me," the old nun said unhappily. Fang Yan bowed to the crowd again and said, "I know I broke the rules of Buddhism, but please understand my sincerity. My friend is going to become a nun. If I can't stand up and do something at this critical moment, I won't be able to live in peace for the rest of my life." Fang Yan looked back at the middle-aged nun who was glaring at him and said, "Instead of that, I'd rather be beaten by you. Monks pay particular attention to mercy. Anyway, you can't beat me to death." Seeing that the nuns were speechless and would not stop him for the time being, Fang Yan hurriedly shouted to the temple hall, "Phoenix, I know you are inside, come out." No one answered. Phoenix was still unwilling to talk. "Do you think you can escape like this? Do you think you are the best choice? Just because you became a nun, you can pretend that nothing happened before? Well, even if these things didn't happen. But what about other things? Can we also pretend that it never happened? We met when you were 10 years old and we have known each other for 13 years now. How many rabbits have we hunted together? How many sparrows have we caught together? How many bottles of your grandpa's Moutai have we secretly drunk? How many times have you bandaged me when I was injured? Because you would come, I began to look forward to the winter and summer holidays every year. Because you liked to wear garlands, I went to the mountain every day to pick wildflowers for you. Because you said that Rukoa Kid was very handsome, I went to Yenjing to cut the same long hair as Rukoa Kid. You can pretend that these things never happened? Have you forgotten all of these? If you have forgotten all of them, why are you willing to use your own body to block the sword for me? If you can pretend that nothing happened, why are you so difficult between me and Baixiu?" Fang Yan's voice passed through the bodies of the nuns, through the temple hall, and all the way to the distant backyard. He said, "If a person doesn't care about another person at all, why would she be willing to die for that person? Phoenix, I understand your current mood. I know the reason why you don't want to see me, but before you make a choice, can you let me fulfill a wish first? I have been secretly in love with you for more than 10 years, but there is a sentence that I have never been able to say. I have no courage when I have the chance, and after I have the courage, I don't have the chance anymore. I must tell you this sentence, and I must tell you before you make a choice. And Xiao, you idiot, you already knew that I liked you." Chapter 601. There was a lotus pond in the lotus temple and the phoenix girl was sitting by the lotus pond. The lotus had already bloomed and was nowhere to be seen. The lotus leaves couldn't stand the cold and started to wither. The yellow leaves and broken branches added a sad autumn thought. The rain continued to fall and it didn't look like it would stop anytime soon. The raindrops fell into the pond and formed shallow ripples. It looked very beautiful. The phoenix's robe had long been soaked by the rain and stuck to her body, making her feel very uncomfortable. However, the most uncomfortable thing was her heart. The lotus pond was some distance away from the temple, but because Fang Yan was shouting so loudly, every word he said could be clearly heard in the quiet backyard. She remembered every single thing that Fang Yan had said clearly. Because she wasn't studying in Swallow Dock, she could only come over during the winter and summer holidays. Therefore Fang Yan looked forward to the winter and summer holidays every year. After the summer holidays he looked forward to the winter holidays and after the winter holidays he looked forward to the summer holidays. Because he saw her weave wild flowers into a wreath and wear it on her head, he went to the mountains every day to pick fresh wild flowers. Because she was crazy about the cool and handsome Rukoa Kid after watching Slam Dunk, he went to Yenjing and had his hair cut exactly like Rukoa Kid. At that time she even laughed that the hairstyle made his head look bigger. He could remember everything. But so what? After a birthday party, when all the friends at home had left, her parents solemnly brought her to the sealed study and earnestly advised her to stay away from Fang Yan. From then on she knew that she and Fang Yan would never be together. She ignored his flattery but she couldn't refuse his approach. She had made up her mind again and again, but each time she had planned it with the idea that tomorrow would begin. It wasn't until she realized that she couldn't control her feelings for him that she knew it was dangerous to continue developing like this. Therefore she accepted Bai Xiu's pursuit and became his girlfriend. That was the first time she accompanied Bai Xiu to admire the snow in the village. That was the first time she held hands with a boy other than Fang Yan. That day she saw Fang Yan, the fool who hid in the corner and did not dare to come out. She didn't know how long Fang Yan stayed in that corner, but she knew how long her heart ached. Later on, every time she returned to Swallow Dock, she would purposely walk to that corner to have a look. She really wanted to experience the feeling of that handsome and mischievous big boy curled up here, watching the girl he liked and another boy hugging and admiring the snow. What kind of feeling would that be? She really wanted to experience it. And Xiao, can you hear me? Fang Yan's voice was still clearly transmitted to her ears. There was no point in deliberately running so far away to hide. I said I like you, did you hear me? I owe you a face-to-face confession and you owe me a face-to-face rejection. Why are you hiding like this? Phoenix's eyes reddened and big tears rolled down her cheeks. The words of love that he couldn't say back then still made her cry like a fool. And Xiao, you know me. You know me better than anyone else, so you should understand that if you don't give me a clear answer I won't leave. I'll sit in this temple, I'll stand guard at the entrance of this hall. I don't believe you can hide from me forever. And Xiao, come out quickly. Fang Yan's expression was conflicted as he shouted at the top of his lungs. Because he was too emotional, the wound on his chest was affected again. Fang Yan coughed violently, and his phlegm carried traces of dark red blood. Song Transplanting's palm strike was too heavy and almost took Fang Yan's life. Although he had been treated by Tianjizi, he still couldn't be too emotional. Fang Yan snuck out. With his current physical condition, if Tianjizi knew that he wanted to come out to find Phoenix, he wouldn't allow him to go out. So touching. A young nun looked at Fang Yan with a flushed face and said, if I had such a man it would be worth dying. If he had treated me like this back then I wouldn't have. A middle-aged nun sighed sadly. Benefactor. The old nun took out a white handkerchief from her pocket and handed it to Fang Yan saying, don't be impatient. I'll go in and persuade her. Fang Yan took the handkerchief and wiped the corner of his mouth. With a face full of gratitude he said to the old nun, thank you, master. I've disturbed the peace of Buddhism. I'm a sinner. But if I don't disturb her this time I'm not a man. I understand. The old nun had a gentle smile on her face as she nodded and said, I've seen and heard too much about young people's love affairs. When young people make mistakes even Buddha will forgive them. But don't be too emotional. That will hurt your body. I understand. Fang Yan nodded and said, Master, can you go in and help me persuade her again and ask her to come out and see me? I promise you. The old nun said. What if she still doesn't want to? Then I'll shout for a while more. Fang Yan said. Her heart is soft. She'll be willing. It's like this every time. When the old nun was about to go in and persuade Phoenix, she turned around and stopped. Phoenix came out. Phoenix, with messy red hair and a plain robe, stood behind the nuns. Because she was too tall, she didn't have any obstructions in the field of vision. She looked at Fang Yan with teary eyes and said in a sobbing voice, "You know, this is the most embarrassing time for me to see anyone. The person I don't want to see the most is you. Why did you come here? I'm afraid that if I didn't come, I wouldn't be able to see you for the rest of my life." Fang Yan said with a smile. He was very happy that Phoenix finally appeared. "What are you doing here?" Phoenix asked. "To take you back." Fang Yan said. "Impossible." Phoenix said. "I've already decided if you didn't knock on the door and disturb me, I would have already shaved my head and become a nun." Fang Yan laughed happily and said, "That's why I said that our fate in the mortal world is not over yet. Why didn't you shave yesterday? Why didn't you shave the day before yesterday? Why did you shave today when I came? Not the second before, not the second after, but when I knocked on the door. Even Buddha couldn't stand it anymore and didn't want to accept you as his disciple. So don't go against Buddha's wishes." Fang Yan reached out to Phoenix and said, "Come back with me." Phoenix shook her head and said, "Fang Yan, I'm not going back. I don't want to go back." Fang Yan became anxious and said, "How can you do that? Once our child is born, how can you take care of it by yourself? Besides, if a nun in the nunnery gives birth to a child, if this kind of thing accidentally gets out." The face of the abbot of the Lotus Temple, old nun Qingji, was pale. She looked at Phoenix with a frightened face and said, "Miss, are you pregnant?" No. Phoenix denied. "Master, I'm not pregnant, I'm still." "He deliberately deceived you because he didn't want you to take me in. This is his shameless style of doing things." Old nun Qingji looked at Phoenix with a solemn expression and said, "Miss, monks don't lie. Speak the truth and be honest. You can't deceive Buddha. If you are really pregnant, you should return to the secular world and get married and have children. This is a nunnery, we also have to take our reputation into consideration. If the nuns in the nunnery give birth, the impact will be too bad." Phoenix bowed to old nun Qingji and said, "Master, I'm willing to swear to Buddha that every word I said is true. Absolutely not a word of falsehood." Old nun Qingji nodded and said, "We won't meddle in the affairs of you young people. The male benefactor's eyes are clear, he's not an untrustworthy person. I hope you will reconsider." Phoenix bowed and said, "Thank you, Master." Phoenix walked in front of Fang Yan and said, "This is a quiet place of Buddhism, let's go out for a walk." Fang Yan said. So Phoenix walked in front and Fang Yan followed closely behind. The two walked out of the door of the Lotus Temple and walked toward the forest in front. It was drizzling and the mountain flowers were in full bloom. The young man and woman walked on the path in the forest. The path was steep and slippery. Fang Yan carefully guarded behind Phoenix, worried that she would accidentally fall. When Fang Yan was thinking about this, Phoenix suddenly stopped, pointed to the grass in front and said, "Rabbit, I just saw a rabbit." When they were in Swallow Dock, Fang Yan and Phoenix would take a walk in the back mountain. Every time they saw animals like rabbits and pheasants, Phoenix would be so happy as if she had discovered a new continent. Every time that happened, Fang Yan would pick up a stone from the ground and throw it over. Pa, after a crisp sound, the rabbit or pheasant would become food in their pot. When he was with Fang Yan never thought about his image. He was willing to show his truest side to her. He wouldn't pretend to be gentle and he wouldn't pretend to be kind. He wouldn't deliberately show that he liked small animals. He really liked them. He really liked to eat them. While speaking, her feet slipped and her body tilted and fell down the slope. Fang Yan was overjoyed, knowing that his chance to be a hero and save the beauty had come. He leaned forward and reached out to hug Phoenix's body. His body felt like it was being torn apart and his movements became a little slow because of illness. He was a step too slow. Crack! Phoenix's body fell heavily onto the wet haystack. "Fang Yan," Phoenix shouted through gritted teeth, "you should let me be a monk." Chapter 602. I didn't do it on purpose. Fang Yan crouched down and tried to help Phoenix up in a flurry. Just as he lifted the Phoenix's body, the sole of his shoes slipped, and he fell to the ground because of the moss on the stone. At this time Fang Yan had lost control of his body. His body was heavily pressed against Phoenix's chest, and the two of them heavily collided. If it weren't for the soft flesh below, the wound on his chest would have been torn open. Phoenix was pressed under Fang Yan's body. She didn't struggle nor did she scream. It was as if she was lying on a big bed at home. She looked at Fang Yan with bright eyes and said, "Is this what you've always wanted to do?" No. Fang Yan quickly denied. After a pause he said, "I wasn't very sensible before, so I had some unhealthy thoughts." Phoenix sighed softly and said, "Yes. You weren't very sensible before, so you had these unhealthy thoughts. After you became sensible, you began to have unhealthy thoughts about others. Now you want to do this kind of thing to Yiro? Unfortunately, you can only think about it. You can't beat her anyway." Phoenix looked at Fang Yan and said, "Although I didn't refuse, are you going to keep lying on top of me and chat like this?" No. I'm going to get up after a rest," Fang Yan said. He got up from Phoenix's arms and pulled Phoenix up from the ground. Phoenix's back was soaked by the water stains on the grass. Her red hair was also wet and messy like a red flame. Phoenix's personality had always been arrogant and domineering. She was like a thorny rose, a woman who always existed like a flame. But after this incident, this flame was completely extinguished. She lost her original spirit and vitality, and her eyes began to become timid and evasive. That incident hurt her too deeply, and it would be difficult for her to recover in a short time. Phoenix looked around and pointed to a big stone in the forest and said, "Let's not go. Let's sit there for a while." Fang Yan nodded. The stone was a little wet, so Fang Yan took off his coat and spread it on the stone. The two of them sat shoulder to shoulder. They had a lot of things to say, but when they sat down together they didn't know how to start. It was a scar. Even if you wanted to open the wound and apply medicine on it, it would be the most painful when you applied the medicine. Fang Yan was afraid that he would say something wrong and once again hurt the sensitive nerves of the phoenix. From the beginning to the end they never talked about Baixiu. They never mentioned that name. Because it was a curse that could not be undone, but one that he wanted to forget forever. "Fang Yan, you shouldn't have come." Just as Fang Yan was hesitating about what to say, Phoenix took the initiative to start the conversation. "I told you if I didn't come I would regret it for the rest of my life." Fang Yan said with a smile. He pulled out a sugarcane grass from beside his feet and gently sucked the sweet juice from the grass root. This was something they often liked to do when they were young. Phoenix also pulled out a sugarcane grass and put it in her mouth. She said, "Before you came I was hoping that you wouldn't come. Because I was afraid that after you came, I wouldn't know what kind of expression to use to meet you. I also wouldn't know what to say to you. I don't want to say sorry, but I really did wrong you." "There's no need to say sorry, you didn't do anything wrong to me," Fang Yan said. "Even if you did, you've already paid it back. What could be more valuable than using your life to make up for it?" "I wasn't making up for it. At the time I thought, just dying like that is fine," Phoenix said in a low voice, "because living is too tiring." "I understand," Fang Yan nodded. "The past is the past, we don't need to talk about it anymore. But you have to go back with me." "Go back?" Phoenix smiled and asked, "Go back to where?" "Home. Or anywhere else," Fang Yan stubbornly said, "but not here." "Fang Yan, don't force me. Don't force me, okay?" Phoenix looked at Fang Yan with a pleading expression and said, "I can't go back and I don't want to go back. Where can I go? If I go back home, how will I face the way my family looks at me? If I go back to Swallow Dock, how will I face their comments about me?" "Go abroad. Go abroad," Fang Yan said. At that time, Li Yun had wanted to send Xianxia abroad, but he intercepted her and brought her back. From Fang Yan's point of view, it might be a good choice for Phoenix to go abroad. After all, no matter how dissatisfied the Yin family was with this woman, they probably wouldn't kill her to keep her quiet. "No matter where I go, they will be able to find me. I can't escape and I don't have a way to escape. Even if they can't find me, can I live a safe and sound life and pretend that nothing has happened?" "Fang Yan, it's not that I can't get past others, but I can't get past myself. I have too many distracting thoughts in my mind and the guilt in my heart is too deep. I will be tortured by these thoughts until I go crazy." Phoenix's eyes were bloodshot as she spoke, and she looked like she was about to go crazy. "I know that you don't feel good, But things have already developed to this stage and we have to consider the best solution. I don't think that it's the best solution for you to become a nun. I think so, Phoenix said. No matter how dissatisfied they are with me, will they still make things difficult for a nun who has become a nun? Also, during the days I've been living on the mountain I feel extremely peaceful. If I serve Buddha wholeheartedly and study Buddhist scriptures, the pain in my heart will be reduced by a lot. This is exactly what I need. Fang Yan, before I made this choice, I was at a loss and didn't know what to do. I didn't know what my next step should be, and I also didn't know what my future would be like. However, after I made my choice, my mind immediately calmed down. I know better than anyone that this is the state I want the most. Don't try to persuade me anymore, okay? Fang Yan was silent. He was not willing to accept such an outcome. However, he did not want to add more troubles to Phoenix. He hoped that she would be able to get through this. Phoenix reached out her hand to stroke Fang Yan's face. Using her fingers, she gently smoothed out Fang Yan's furrowed brows and said, Fang Yan, I didn't want you to come, but I am still very happy that you did. Women are always so contradictory. Just like what you said earlier, let's let go of everything that happened in the past. Let's act as if we've just met today. Fang Yan, promise me, okay? Okay, Fang Yan gritted his teeth and said. I want to drink strong liquor, Phoenix said. Hey. On the way down the mountain I saw a farmer's family. I'll go find them and buy some meat. With Fang Yan's current physical condition, it was unrealistic to use stones to kill rabbits and pheasants. The best way would be to find a hunter in the mountains to buy these things. The people living in the mountains would certainly not be lacking in game. I want to eat ambush from 10 sides, Phoenix said. Okay, I'll borrow a pot from them and make ambush from 10 sides for you. Fang Yan glanced at Phoenix, then got up and ran back the way he came. Phoenix stared at Fang Yan's back in a daze. She chewed the sugar cane grass in her mouth and swallowed it into her stomach. It was as if she was Fang Yan. Fang Yan quickly returned. He carried a sack on his shoulder and a large pot in his hand. Fang Yan placed the pot on the ground, then took out the contents of the sack one by one. Every time he took out something he would introduce it to Phoenix as if it was a treasure, just like the first time he took her to the mountains to hunt rabbits for ambush from 10 sides. This is dried rabbit. This is half a pheasant, they only have this half in their house. This is the dough they sent. They originally used to make pot stickers at night but I borrowed it. This is oil and salt. This is dried chili from their wall. Fang Yan took out a white plastic bucket from his pocket and said, You didn't expect this, did you? They also have loose spirits. I just took a sip. It's not as clear as Swallow Doc's Xiaodao, but it's still very good. That big brother said there's at least 3 caddies of it. I haven't touched white wine for a long time. Let's have a good drink later. Fang Yan copied Swallow Doc's style and used a few large stones to build a simple stove on a piece of dry land. After washing the large pot in the stream he put it on the stove. Then he cleaned the rabbit and pheasant, cut them into large pieces with a knife, and put them into the pot one by one. He grabbed a handful of wild mushrooms and wild beans and threw them in together, then added a certain amount of stream water. Because it had just rained, the most difficult step was to find hay and firewood. Of course, this was not a problem for Fang Yan. He dug out a few rabbit holes, inside of which were soft and dry weeds. Then he pulled out some old branches from under some rocks that had not fallen in the rain, and then used a lighter from a farmer's house to light the hay. The fire burned fiercely. Phoenix happily helped to light the fire, and from time to time she would laugh like a silver bell when she heard Fang Yan's words. Her laughter traveled far, the most beautiful sound of nature in this forest. This scene was so familiar, it was exactly the same as when they were ambushed from 10 sides in Swallow Dock. When the soup was boiling, the meat was cooked. Fang Yan poured the oil, salt, and seasonings he had prepared into the pot. Then he threw in a handful of chili and poured in some spirits. The large pot began to emit a fragrant aroma, and even the steam that came out from it could not help but greedily suck it into their lungs. Fang Yan opened the barrel, gulped down a mouthful, and then handed the barrel to Phoenix in front of him. Phoenix took the barrel, raised her head and gulped down a big mouthful. Eat meat. Fang Yan handed the chopsticks he had cut from a tree branch to Phoenix. Phoenix took the chopsticks, picked up a rabbit leg from the pot and began to eat. The rabbit leg that had just come out of the pot was too hot, and Phoenix ate it too quickly, so she would occasionally spit out her tongue to blow out a breath of cold air. However, she still greedily ate without a care. She chewed the rabbit meat in a sorry state and big drops of tears flowed down her cheeks. From now on there would be no more phoenix. Chapter 603. Fang Yan picked up a rabbit leg from the pot and took a bite, only to find that the meat was too salty. Originally, when the hunters air-dried the rabbit they would rub salt on it, but Fang Yan just threw a handful of salt in. As a result, this pot of ambush from 10 sides became very heavy. Fang Yan glanced at Phoenix and saw that she was eating heartily as if she didn't notice it at all. "It's too salty," Fang Yan said. The meat was salty and so were the tears. So, for the time being, Phoenix couldn't tell whether it was the meat or the tears that dripped on the meat that were salty. Hearing Fang Yan's words, Phoenix discreetly wiped her eyes with her sleeve and said, "Drink some wine to calm it down." As she spoke, she handed the wine barrel in her hand to Fang Yan. Without a cup they could only drink with their mouths aimed at the opening of the barrel. In Swallowdock they often did this and they still did it now. Of course, in the eyes of outsiders, this was no different from an indirect kiss. Fang Yan took the barrel and took a big gulp. He said with a smile, "I've eaten all kinds of dishes in the world, but the one I want to eat the most is still this ambush from 10 sides that we created." Phoenix nodded and said, "Yes. I'm just afraid that I won't be able to eat it in the future." "How can that be?" Fang Yan said with a smile, "Whenever you want to eat it I'll make it for you. What if you and Yuru got married?" "Then I'll make it for you secretly," Fang Yan said. Phoenix squinted her eyes and laughed. If other men were to answer this question they would definitely brag about how high their status in the family is, and what they say is the law and their wives have no say at all. Only married men would dare to do that. Anyway, their wives have already been tricked into coming home. Fang Yan said with a smile. If an unmarried man dared to say that, which woman would be willing to marry him? You have to look further. Phoenix looked at Fang Yan with gentle eyes and said, "You're always different from what others think." "Not really. Apart from being a little more handsome than Li Xiaotian and the others, I'm not much different from them in other aspects. Drinking wine, eating meat from bowls and bragging loudly. It's the nature of men, you know." "Are they all right?" Phoenix asked. "Not bad," Fang Yan said with a smile. "They're all fine." During Zhu Xian's special training in the North Sea, it was said that her family's 10,000 elephants fist, which had been stagnant for a long time, was showing signs of making another breakthrough. If he broke through again he would become the second person in the younger generation of the Zhu clan to enter the 10,000 phenomenon formation. Li Xiaotian was doing business with his brother in Beijing. With the help of the Maple Leaf Society his business was booming. Wan Qian's work is the hardest. He follows Yi Daoling as a confidential secretary. Although this kid keeps complaining, his personality has become much more mature and steady. When friends met, it was natural for them to talk about each other's friends. Zhu Xian, Li Xiaotian, Wan Qian and the others were all good friends of Fang Yan and Phoenix. They shared many common memories. Back then Fang Yan had attacked the Phoenix with the help or cover of these companions. The offensive was fierce, but in the end the Lone Ranger by Xiu took down the Phoenix. This made everyone feel a little sad and disappointed. Later everyone went to the back of the mountain to drink a dozen liters of Shaodaozi, ate a pot of 10 noodles ambush and cried for a while. After watching Fang Yan brag for a few hours, the pain in their hearts lessened a little. "I haven't seen them for a long time, I really miss them," Phoenix said with a smile. "If they know that I've become a nun will they be shocked?" "And Xiao," Fang Yan shouted angrily. He didn't like to hear Phoenix talk about this topic. "They will definitely be shocked. Especially Wan Qian. His personality is the softest and he likes to cry. If he knows that I've become a nun maybe he will cry. No one wants to hear this news." "Fang Yan, just now at Lotus Temple, you said that you owe me a face-to-face confession and I owe you a face-to-face rejection. Now, can you confess to me one more time?" Phoenix looked at Fang Yan expectantly, her right hand tightly gripping the rabbit's leg, afraid that Fang Yan would refuse her rude request. Fang Yan looked at Phoenix seriously and said, "I like you for many years. For a very very long time I felt that I couldn't live without you. I liked you until I saw you in Bai Xiu's arms, admiring the snow in the village. After seeing that scene I decided that I didn't like you anymore. But when I thought about it I liked you for many years." Phoenix's eyes filled with tears again. She sobbed and said, "I really don't want to refuse." Then she shook her head desperately, shaking off the ripples in her heart. She said, "But I still want to refuse. Fang Yan, I'm sorry. I can't accept you. I couldn't accept you in the past and I definitely won't accept you in the future." Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, "You're really cruel. You rejected me twice in one go. I won't do such things in the future." Phoenix was once again amused by Fang Yan. She wiped away the tears in her eyes and said, "I won't let you do such things in the future either." She reached out and snatched the wine barrel from Fang Yan's hand. Then she took a big gulp and said, "When did you start to dislike me? Until you met Yi Ro?" Fang Yan shook his head and said, "You should know that at that time I only had eyes for you. I felt that even 100 Yi Ros couldn't compare to you. I even did something stupid like writing a love letter to Yi Ro under Bai Xiu's name. I felt that if I did that you would be mine alone. And now Yi Ro has replaced you." Fang Yan didn't hide anything and said with incomparable sincerity. He wouldn't hurt another woman for the sake of comforting her. That would be unfair to Yi Ro. "Is she good to you?" "Yes. I know she's good to you," Phoenix said with red eyes. "To be honest, I don't care about all the women in Swallow Dock, but I have a natural hostility towards Yi Ro. Although you didn't like her at that time and always spoke ill of her in front of me. But the more you said, the more worried I was. I was worried that you would fall in love with her. I was worried that she would replace my place in your heart. So, every time I saw you walking with her, I was especially angry. Every time that happened, I would pretend to meet you by chance, deliberately showing how intimate we were, saying something deliberately to make her angry. I know it's stupid and childish of me to do that, but I can't help but do it. Fang Yan, I'm not a smart woman. I'm also not a determined woman. There are many things that I can't see as clearly as Yi Ro. I'm trapped in a cocoon of my own making. I'm tightly entangled by one net after another. I can't move my hands and feet and even breathing is extremely difficult. I used to often think about this problem. If only I could do it, how good it would be. I used to like to read romance novels, in which the young ladies of rich and powerful families resolutely elope with their loved ones. At that time I thought how good it would be if I could do it. But I just couldn't make such a decision. Day after day, year after year, we wait for it. When I needed to make a choice between the two of us when the conflict was about to erupt, I did such a stupid thing. Fang Yan, you don't know how ashamed I was the second you tore off my veil. I was so ashamed that I couldn't show my face. At that time I really wanted to stab myself with a sword. All my choices were wrong. All my steps were on the wrong beat. I was the most stupid and cowardly woman in the world. And Xiao. Fang Yan, do you remember the question I asked you on Mount E Sword? Yes. Fang Yan nodded. You asked me if I knew why you're called Phoenix. The name Phoenix was given by me, the Phoenix said. When I was a child I read a novel about Phoenix. The book said that Phoenix is the messenger of happiness in the world. Every 500 years, it has to carry all the unhappiness and hatred accumulated in the world and throw itself into the raging fire to burn itself. It uses the end of its life and beauty to exchange for peace and happiness in the world. Similarly, after experiencing great pain and suffering, it can be reborn with a better body. Fang Yan, I can't wait for 500 years. I can't even hold on for 5 days. I want to carry the unhappiness and hatred on my body and throw myself into the raging fire to burn myself. I want happiness. I want to be reborn. Phoenix reached out and held Fang Yan's hand. This time let me listen to the choice of my heart. Let me make my own decision. I know that I was wrong for the first half of my life. Let me make my own choice this time. The Phoenix stood up and walked in front of Fang Yan. He stretched out his hand and gently stroked Fang Yan's hair. He said, I will burn incense and pray for you in front of Buddha every day. I will bless you with a lifetime of happiness. Phoenix left. The firewood was still burning and the meat soup was fragrant. The 3 liters of liquor had been emptied. Fang Yan held the empty barrel. After pouring out the last drop of liquor, he threw the barrel far away. Clang! The plastic barrel hit a rock and bounced back. It fell into the stream and flowed downstream. It was unknown where it would end up. In the beginning I only believed. What was great was emotion. In the end I was powerless to see. What was strong was fate. Love is like a song. Hate is like a song. Goodbye, Xianxia. Goodbye, my first love. Chapter 604. Below was the yellow springs, above was the extreme cold. The extreme cold was the land of extreme cold that people talked about. Many people thought that the land of extreme cold was the same as the yellow springs of hell, that it was a myth. But what they did not know was that the yellow springs of hell did not exist. After all, no one had been there, and even if they did, there was no way to report back. But the land of extreme cold really did exist. It was just that it was difficult for ordinary people to find and reach safely. The average temperature here was 50 degrees Celsius, and the lowest temperature was 70 degrees Celsius. Once the temperature reached a certain degree, it was not suitable for human habitation. Therefore, on this isolated and unknown land of glaciers, you could not see any other humans. Even some cold-resistant animals and plants were rare. Snow. The entire world was covered in snow. A world covered in ice and snow should be bright or even dazzling. But the color of the sky here was dusky. It was covered in fog all year round, as if it was covered by a huge gray curtain. Because the weather was too cold, even the fog in the air was frozen, and there was a slight feeling of being cut apart. Crack, crack, crack. A tall man covered in animal fur walked step by step in the snow. Every step he took would leave a deep hole in the world of ice and snow. Behind him there was a long row of footprints. Those footprints looked lonely, just like their owner. His eyebrows were covered in ice, and his eyes were as cold as ice. His hair was loose and knotted, and he looked like a wild man in the wilderness. No, he looked even worse than a wild man in the wilderness, because he could not remember how long it had been since he last combed his hair. His full beard protected his mouth and nose, and it did have the effect of resisting the cold. The man held a long spear over 10 feet long in his hand. The tip of the spear dragged in the snow, making a rustling sound as if the owner of the spear did not have the strength to carry it. Either they return home or the Snow Empire will be buried. This was what the old drunkard Emochingdi had said when he left Swallow Dock. It was not some heroic speech, nor was it to cut off a path of retreat to encourage himself. He did not need this. Too many things had happened in Swallow Dock, and the Fong family was in danger. Fong Yixing, whom he regarded as his elder brother, had died tragically. Fong Yan was deeply affected and was unable to recover, so he decided to observe mourning for 3 years. Emochingdi knew that Fong Yan made such a decision out of guilt. He blamed himself for being a step too slow and not being able to bring his father back from the ambush in time. How could he not feel guilty? The enemy had already come to their doorstep. As the former Wuxia Azure Dragon, as a member of the Fong family, there was nothing he could do. When he arrived with his silver spear, all he saw was the scene of Fong Yan holding Fong Yixing's corpse and wailing. How could he not feel sad? He could have been faster. He could have saved them from this disaster in the past. However, because the meridians in his body were broken, it was difficult for him to use his energy. Having a mountain of treasures but being unable to use them, how cruel was this feeling for a former king-level figure? Therefore, Emochingdi prepared a generous gift and went to see the medicine addict, asking him to check his pulse. The medicine addict's prescription was to use the rare blood of the ice dragon to heal Emochingdi's broken meridians. Although the ice dragon liked the cold, its body belonged to the fire attribute. Its blood was like fire. Drinking it could make one's blood boil and cure all kinds of diseases. However, even the medicine addict only deduced from the records in the medical books that there was a possibility of finding the ice dragon in the land of extreme cold. As for what the ice dragon looked like and what its habits were, he had no idea. Emochingdi still made his choice. He chose to believe in the medicine addict and agreed to his harsh conditions. He came to this land of extreme cold alone with his spear. Instead of living like a useless person, it was better to die far away from the crowd. This was Emochingdi's persistence, his last pride. Emochingdi had been here for more than 3 years, maybe even longer. Anyway, he could not remember clearly. There was no day or night here. Whether it was day or night, the sky was always gray. When it snowed, it would be slightly brighter. Fortunately, it snowed frequently here. Emochingdi called the time when it snowed as his day. It was also his time to move around. Because it had just snowed heavily, the snowy ground was a vast expanse of whiteness. Nothing could be seen. Not even the tiny footprints of animals could be seen. Hiss, hiss, hiss. There was the faint sound of something hissing, but it was almost inaudible in the howling wind. However, it could not escape Emochingdi's ears. Imo Qingdi stopped in his tracks and stood still on the spot. Just then a snow-white object broke through the thick layer of snow and sprang up from the ground. It lunged towards Imo Qingdi's exposed palm and bit at it. A flame rat. A rat that had mutated in an extremely harsh environment. Their black fur had turned red and their black skin had turned white. They looked very cute. However, perhaps because of the lack of resources in the land of extreme cold, they were greedy and bloodthirsty. They would not let go of any prey that could become their food. They did not like to live in the ice and snow, but in the volcanic areas of the land of extreme cold. It was a volcano also covered in ice and snow, but at least the rocks and soil there could give them some warmth. For a long time, Imo Qingdi survived by eating this kind of flame rat. Later, Imo Qingdi discovered a kind of snow snake. After it was frozen, it was cut with a knife and its meat was even more delicious and tender. Humans needed something to eat. Even if you were Wuxia, the azure dragon was no exception. Imo Qingdi was no stranger to this kind of rat. He had countless experiences in dealing with this kind of flame rat. Therefore, when the flame rat jumped up and bit his arm, he suddenly let go of the gun in his hand. Then, with a flip of his wrist, the flame rat that weighed 1 kilogram was caught in the palm of his hand. He gently pressed down with his thumb, and the flame rat's neck gave off a crisp sound before it was broken by him. With practiced movements, Imo Qingdi tossed the mouse into the mixed grain sack that he always carried with him. Then, with a flick of his foot, the handle of the spear that was about to fall into the snow flew up into the air and was caught by Imo Qingdi in his hand. Just like before, he dragged the spear forward again. Thirsty to drink snow water, hungry to eat snow snakes and flame rats, trapped in an ice cave. He lived on with determination. Day after day, year after year. This was the state of his daily life. He did not know what the ice dragon looked like and he did not know where the ice dragon was. Therefore, the only thing he could do was to search. Like a lonely ghost in this land of extreme coldness, he walked through all the places that he had not been to before. Rumble, a thunderous sound came from afar. Imo Qingdi's expression froze. He stood still and looked into the distance. In the few years that he had been here, it often snowed in this land of extreme coldness, but there had never been thunder or lightning. Because everyone knew that this kind of sound could bring about a terrible consequence. A chain of avalanches. Once the avalanches spread out for thousands of miles, it would be a disaster. Even Imo Qingdi, the azure dragon, did not have the confidence that he could run thousands of miles in such a harsh environment. The key was that his speed was faster than the speed of the glacier. That was a power that even the gods could not contend against. Imo Qingdi had to be careful. He waited for a while, but the rumbling sound did not come again. This gave Imo Qingdi a little peace of mind. A gust of wind blew over. There was a strange yet familiar scent in the wind. Imo Qingdi frowned. Holding his spear, he ran back in the direction he came from. He smelled danger. Rumble, a sound that was more deafening and longer than before, rang out again. It was as if a sleeping beast had just awakened and was declaring its sovereignty over this territory to the outside world. Bang, a plume of black smoke rose into the sky, and then a fiery red rainbow spread across the sky. No, that was not a real rainbow. It was a rock or that erupted from a volcano. The colorful boiling substances dispersed in the sky, incinerating all the snow and mist that came into contact with them. They fell from the sky with billowing white smoke and then collapsed in all directions. They were demons of the human world and nothing could stop them. The place where they landed became a deep pit. The pit grew larger and larger and expanded to the surrounding area. Crack, crack. The sound of ice breaking came from the high mountains, and then large chunks of ice and snow rolled down towards the flat tundra. With the force of Mount Tai, they were about to destroy all living things that stood in their way. Imo Qingdi smelled the sulfur in the air in advance, so he ran in time and at the most crucial moment. Based on the area he was in, if he did not turn and run in advance, he might have been swallowed by the volcanic rocks that fell from the sky. Imo Qingdi ran very boldly, running with all his might. He ran like a wild beast with disheveled hair. Of course, there would be beasts who would not accept that he was a wild beast. This was because while he was madly running, a snow-white dog-like object actually surpassed his speed. It opened its mouth and stuck out its tongue as it ran in front of him with a whizzing sound. An ice dragon? Imo Qingdi's eyes brightened, and the pores on his body became transparent. Although he had never seen a real ice dragon, not even a picture of one, he knew in his heart that this was the ice dragon he had been searching for. All his efforts seemed to have paid off. Even at this critical moment of life and death, Mo Qingdi was still grateful to the heavens. Chapter 605. The greatest torment in life was despair. He searched day and night. He walked through every corner of this land of extreme coldness. Every step he took could circle around Yanjing City countless times. However, he had never seen an ice dragon before. In fact, he didn't even find any clues related to it. At this time, Mo Qingdi's heart began to waver. Was there an ice dragon? If not, what was the point of persisting? But if he didn't persist, what would he do? Would he go back with this broken body and witness the decline of the Fong family? Or would he die with them? The Fong family needed a man to stand up. If it wasn't Fong Yan, it would be him. If Fong Yan wasn't ready, then he would have to stand up for him for a while or a lifetime. If he wasn't ready, all the burden would be on Fong Yan alone. Most importantly, some of the hatred started because of him. If he couldn't stand up again, what would he do if they saw Fong Yan as a target for revenge? According to the extraordinary medical record, it was shaped like a dragon and had horns like ice. In other words, it should be a little transparent dragon. Why did the ice dragon he saw now look like a dog? A small transparent dog with a sharp horn and a tongue sticking out as it ran for its life? Just as Mo Qingdi was looking at the little transparent dog with excitement, the little transparent dog even turned around to look at Mo Qingdi. There was a hint of mockery in its eyes. Mo Qingdi's expression froze. What was it trying to say? Was it trying to tell him that he couldn't run as fast as a dog? Kacha kacha. The sound of the avalanche was endless. The entire glacial land was rumbling and shaking. The mountains were collapsing and the earth was cracking. It was as if the world was about to collapse. Mo Qingdi ran even faster. The ice dragon that had been leading the way also sped up. Clang clang clang. This was the sound of Mo Qingdi's big feet stomping on the snow. Every step he took seemed like he was going to make a big hole in the ground. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The little transparent dog landed without a sound. Its body seemed to be one with the snow. Every time she leapt, she would draw a beautiful arc in the air before landing nimbly a few meters away. It didn't look like it was running. It looked like the wind was pushing it forward. Its speed far surpassed Mo Qingdi, so it was no wonder that it looked down on Mo Qingdi. A man and a beast. The beast was leading the way while the man followed closely behind. Mo Qingdi suddenly realized that he and this ice dragon had become a pair of brothers in hardship. If the lava rolled over and the glacier covered them, both of them would face the same fate. They would either be incinerated by the rock ores or buried by the glacier and turned into an iceberg fossil. The cracking sounds behind them became more and more rapid, and the ground beneath their feet also began to split apart, forming countless cracks of varying sizes. Some of the cracks were unfathomably deep, and if one were to fall into them, they might never be able to climb out again. What was worse was that the rumbling sounds of volcanic eruptions were incessant. One hot rock or after another was sent into the sky by them, and then turned into a colorful waterfall that poured down on the glacier. It seemed like this was just the beginning and no one knew when it would end. The volcano was enraged. It was as if it wanted to issue an ultimate challenge to the glacier that had covered it for thousands of years. Either the flames would melt the glacier and turn it into its captive, or the glacier would extinguish the flames and turn it into a defeated opponent. However, whether it was the flames or the glacier, Mo Qingdi and the transparent dog running in front of him could not contend against them. Sometimes the saying "man can conquer nature" seemed like a joke. The glacier beneath their feet was cracking faster and faster, and the cracking sounds were incessant. Mo Qingdi could already feel the rolling heat waves behind him. It was the hot magma that was sent here by the cold wind ahead of time. Mo Qingdi knew that he had to make a change. They couldn't outrun the speed of the glacier's collapse and they couldn't outrun the lava. They were humans and their physical strength would soon be exhausted. Especially with Mo Qingdi's current physical condition, he couldn't hold on for too long. He had to make a change. But how? Behind him was the collapsing glacier and boiling lava, and in front of him was an endless expanse of ice and snow. Where could he run to? Just as Mo Qingdi was making a difficult decision in his heart, the transparent dog running in front of him suddenly changed direction. But Mo Qingdi hesitated for a moment, then followed closely behind it and turned left. Although Di had lived in this extremely cold place for many years, he was not familiar with the terrain at all. There was no way to familiarize himself with it. There was no map to check, no navigation to use, there were only mountains and hills, and the whole world was covered in snow. No one knew what was hidden under the snow. Di didn't know the way, but he knew that Ice Dragon must be familiar with the terrain. Ice Dragon was a long-lived species. With its current size and running speed, Di suspected that it had lived for at least a few decades or even 100 years. It could be considered a native of this glacier, and Di was just an intruder. Perhaps Ice Dragon could help Di through this life and death situation. As Di thought of this, he spread out his body and followed closely behind Ice Dragon. In order not to slow down, he even threw away the spear in his hand. When Ice Dragon turned left, Di turned left. When Ice Dragon turned right, Di turned right. When Ice Dragon jumped up the hill, Di followed. As they ran, the rumbling sound behind them gradually faded away. The scorching hot wind that made one's skin tighten and hair burn also disappeared. When Ice Dragon's body stopped, Di realized that they had entered a large ice cave. The surface area of this ice cave was so large that it didn't look like it was man-made. Moreover, the inverted ice pillars hanging down from the cave were strangely shaped and sparkling. Di looked at Ice Dragon, and Ice Dragon looked back at Di. There was a trace of a smile on its face. It looked very proud of itself. It really is a demon. Di thought in his heart. Di came to this extremely cold place with only one purpose: to find Ice Dragon and extract its blood and meridians to heal his broken body. According to common sense, now that they were out of danger and Ice Dragon was standing right in front of them, it should be time to act, right? But here came the problem. Ice Dragon had just saved Di's life. No matter how much Di didn't want to admit it, he couldn't deny the fact that he was able to survive in such a dangerous environment mainly because of this invisible little dog's guidance. Otherwise, he would have been covered by the glaciers and burned into gas by the lava. If Di wanted to heal his body and meridians, then he would have to kill Ice Dragon, collect its blood and extract its meridians. But if he did that, how could he face the gratitude of saving his life just now? Perhaps to many people, Ice Dragon was just an animal, and an animal's duty was to contribute. Who would blame you for killing an animal? But Di was a person who sought the path of martial arts. If he wanted to progress in martial arts, he must keep his heart at ease and his mind clear. If it did that, there would be a crack in his martial arts heart. Perhaps it wouldn't affect him now, but it would be magnified infinitely in his martial arts journey in the future. It would become a stain in his heart. How could he seek the path of martial arts? How could he achieve the path of martial arts? A man and a beast stared at each other in silence. Di's mouth was gasping for air, and Ice Dragon was also breathing softly. In front of Di's mouth was a large cloud of mist, and in front of Ice Dragon was a small cloud of mist. Someone or a dog had to break the awkward atmosphere. The host dog obviously didn't have such awareness, so this was something only Di could do. Di took out a flame rat from his snack bag, and gently tossed it in front of Ice Dragon. Just like how men pass each other cigarettes when they meet. Di didn't smoke, so he took out his snack bag and gave it to Ice Dragon as a gesture of goodwill. Di made an inviting gesture, indicating that Ice Dragon should enjoy the food he gave him. Ice Dragon glanced at the flame rat thrown by Di, then turned around and walked into the depths of the cave. Not long after, it once again ran in front of Di. Slap! It threw the thing in its mouth in front of Di. Di looked at it and was instantly shocked. 9-petal snow lotus. This kind of snow lotus has 9 petals and it takes 3 years for each petal to grow. Moreover, this kind of 9-petal snow lotus can only grow in extremely cold places. It can't exist in other places. As Di stared at the snow lotus with his mouth wide open, Ice Dragon once again turned around and ran into the cave. Slap! Another object was thrown in front of Di. Baby ginseng. This kind of mountain ginseng was shaped like a child, hence its name. It was said that it could only be found under the icebergs in extremely cold places. But the icebergs were covered with layers of ice. How would you know where to find ginseng? Slap! Some kind of fiery red fruit of unknown origin. Slap! A red carp weighing dozens of kilograms. There was an ice river under the glacier, and the red carp was a special product of the ice river. Its meat was delicious and it was highly nutritious. In the second year of Mo Qingdi's arrival in the extremely cold places, he accidentally caught a red carp weighing 1 kilogram in the ice river. Mo Qingdi only had a few meals with that fish, and it was the best food he had ever eaten since he arrived in this extremely cold place. Most of the time he ate flame rats, and only when he wanted to improve his life could he eat snow snakes. Slap, slap, slap. Ice Dragon's speed was very fast, so in front of Mo Qingdi, there was a small mountain of all kinds of rare and delicious food. Finally, Ice Dragon stopped running back into the cave, but looked at Mo Qingdi provocatively, and used its nose to point at the food it threw in front of Mo Qingdi, meaning, "Eat, I have plenty of food. You flaunt your wealth like this." Mo Qingdi's voice was dry, and the flame rat thrown in front of Ice Dragon looked even more pitiful. "It's not too safe, is it?" Chapter 606. Fang Yan had shown an amazing capacity for alcohol since he was very young. But because of his mediocre behavior, he was Mo Qingdi's second favorite drinking buddy. In first place was Yi Wenro. Once, Mo Qingdi had just finished a new jar of wine and invited Fang Yan over to taste it. When Mo Qingdi placed his hand-brewed shadozi in front of Fang Yan only glanced at it disdainfully, then ran back to his room and brought back a box of Maotai. The box of wine was as old as the Maotai factory was built. It was said that Phoenix stole it from her grandfather. Mo Qingdi was so angry that he drank the entire box of wine. When Mo Qingdi first saw this transparent dog, he felt a little familiar, but he couldn't figure out what was so familiar about it. He thought it was a subconscious feeling, that this was the ice dragon that he had to find in his destiny. He saw the disdainful look in the transparent dog's eyes when it saw the flame rat, and the triumphant look when it crazily moved its treasures in front of him for him to enjoy. It was exactly the same face as Fang Yan when he was young. From their expressions to their actions, this transparent dog was practically a miniature version of Fang Yan. And they were equally shameless. In real life, people like to call people who like to show off their wealth a dog. Now Mo Qingdi saw with his own eyes a transparent dog running in front of him to show off its wealth. Moreover, even someone as knowledgeable as Mo Qingdi could not help but admit that this dog was truly rich. It was practically overflowing with wealth. Seeing that Mo Qingdi was standing there motionless, Ice Dragon thought that he was too embarrassed to enjoy, so it came over with a red fruit in its mouth and took the initiative to walk toward Mo Qingdi. Mo Qingdi's heart trembled and he looked at Ice Dragon with a face full of surprise. It trusted me. It believed that I would not hurt it, so it unscrupulously took the initiative to approach me. This feeling of being inexplicably trusted is really good, so good that people can't bear to break it. Mo Qingdi held out his hand, and Ice Dragon put the fruit in its mouth into Mo Qingdi's palm, then raised its head and looked at him expectantly. Mo Qingdi grabbed a handful of snow and wiped the fruit, washing away Ice Dragon's saliva, and then took a bite of the red fruit. Crunch, crisp, sweet and juicy. This was the tastiest fruit Mo Qingdi had ever eaten. Mo Qingdi grinned and shoved the remaining half of the fruit into his mouth. The Ice Dragon was also very happy. It jumped up and down in front of Mo Qingdi with an adorable expression that said, "I told you it was delicious, now you know I didn't lie. I can't kill you." Mo Qingdi looked at Ice Dragon and said. He looked at the little transparent dog as if he was looking at a young Fang Yan. How could he bear to kill it? Just like how it was impossible for him to kill Fang Yan, because Fang Yan was like his child. Ice Dragon did not understand what Mo Qingdi was saying. It only saw Mo Qingdi talking to it. It thought that it had been praised and that Mo Qingdi was telling it, "The food you gave me is really delicious." So it ran to fetch a similar red fruit and placed it in Mo Qingdi's palm. "Eat it." It looked at Mo Qingdi with a proud expression. "I know you don't understand." Mo Qingdi took the fruit and looked at Ice Dragon with a serious expression and said, "But I still want to thank you. You are my savior." Recently Jiang Zhulu had been feeling uneasy. To him this was the darkest period of his life. His father died tragically, the Longtu group that was controlled by the Jiang family was torn apart, and a part of the shares fell into the hands of Fang Yan and Lu Chaoga. When he thought of this he wanted to scream and go crazy. That is compromise. He comforted himself countless times. Only smart people know how to compromise. Fang Yan had snatched Jiang Shangxin away from him. What kind of evidence did Jiang Shangxin have? He could only infer from some of the unusual details of Jiang Shangxin that she must have something that was harmful to them, but Jiang Zhulu had no way of knowing what it was. The general's order suddenly disappeared without a word of warning. Where did he go? The incident at One Sword Peak was a mystery. Those who knew about it had all disappeared and no one came to tell him what had happened. His greatest support was the general family. It was the general medallion that the general family had stood up to speak for him. If the general medallion disappeared or he lost his status in the general family, he would have no choice but to hug the thigh of the general line again. He could not get through to Jiang Junling on the phone, so he felt that it was necessary to inform General Hang. Although this kind of behavior might be misunderstood by the general as betrayal, but if you leave without saying a word, isn't that also a kind of betrayal to your allies? Jiang Zhulu was very angry in his heart. He felt that the business partners he was working with were too unscrupulous. Jiang Zhulu rummaged in the drawer and finally found General Hang's name card in the corner. He dialed the number on the name card and the call was quickly connected. "Is this Zhulu?" A man's voice came from the other side of the phone. Jiang Zhulu could tell that it was General Hang's voice that he was familiar with. Jiang Zhulu was touched. He did not expect General Hang to save his number. He smiled and said, "Master, it's me, Wu. Wu, long time no see. I haven't seen you drinking in Yanjing recently." General Hang chuckled. "Master, you know that there have been too many things happening recently. Wu, I know what happened to your father. You have to restrain your grief and take care of your health. You are the only pillar of the Jiang family now, so you must not fall. Also, I know a little about the Longtu group. You don't have to worry about it. You're still young and you'll soon be able to build a bigger family business for yourself. I believe that you have the ability and I also believe that you have the foresight." General Hang said that he believed that he had foresight, but what foresight? Jiang Zhulu understood the meaning behind General Hang's words and said sincerely, "Master, please take care of me in the future." General Hang was very satisfied with Jiang Zhulyo's attitude and said, "Zhulu, you are too kind. I am just an idle person in the family, so I don't usually care about these things. However, you are Shangxin's husband and my brother-in-law. We are a family. Your matters are my matters." "Thank you, Master." Jiang Zhulyo's heart was finally at ease. The general had left and the general had replaced him. Finally, he had found another thick thigh to cling to. However, what exactly happened to Jiang Junling? "Master, did the military order come back to Yanjing? He didn't even inform us when he left." Jiang Zhulu had to ask this question. No matter what, he used to be a close friend of Jiang Junling's. If you turned a blind eye to your previous master just because you clung to General Hang's thigh, how would General Hang view you? Moreover, he asked this question after he had General Hang's backing. This showed that he valued his relationship with General Hang more. As for asking about Jiang Junling's whereabouts, that was merely out of courtesy. With General Hang's intelligence, he would definitely understand the deeper meaning behind his actions. General Hang's voice was slightly heavy as he said, "The military order disappeared in Huaqing a few days ago, and everyone in the family is looking for him. But he sent someone back to report that he is fine and just wants to leave for a while to relax. Then I will have to trouble you in the future." Jiang Zhulu congratulated him vaguely. With Jiang Junling's disappearance, the general family had to push out a new person, and that person was naturally General Hang. Jiang Zhulu had been suppressed for so many years by the words one should have a son like Jiang Junling. As the eldest brother, he must be feeling very indignant, right? "Let's work hard together." General Hang smiled and said, "A fence needs 3 stakes and a good man needs 3 helpers. I am not as talented as the military order, so I need the support of my friends. Zhulu will follow your lead from now on, young master." Jiang Zhulu promised. "You're treating me like an outsider." General Hang's smile became even more carefree. "By the way, if there's a military order to contact you, please let me know in time. No one in the family knows where he is, and he disappeared without even handing over the business he was in charge of. The family is in a mess." The old man is very displeased with his behavior of disappearing without notifying him. "I know what to do," Jiang Zhulu said. After obtaining his loyalty, General Hang gave him some very important information. Jiang Junling had indeed disappeared. Not only did he not notify him, he didn't even say hello to anyone in the general family. Moreover, he didn't have the time to hand over all the work he was in charge of, and because of his departure, there was a gap in management. Most importantly, the old man was very displeased with his behavior of disappearing without notifying him. Does this mean that General Hang has already replaced Jiang Junling's position in the general family? Jiang Zhulu secretly rejoiced that he had made the call in time. If he waited for the general's command to come knocking on his door, then he would lose a precious initiative. Where did the general's order go? Jiang Zhulu couldn't help but think of Fang Yan. Could it be that Jiang Junling had been gotten rid of by Fang Yan? Jiang Zhuyo's worries rippled in his heart as he thought of that delicate-looking young man. He was really a scourge. Ring, the phone on the table rang. Jiang Zhulu saw that it was a call from the secretary outside and asked, "Lily, what's the matter?" "Chairman Jiang, Miss Jiang wants to see you," the secretary's voice sounded. "Miss Jiang?" Jiang Zhulu thought for a while and asked, "Jiang Xianxia?" "It's me." This time it wasn't Lily's voice but Jiang Xianxia's. Jiang Zhuyo's face turned gloomy. The one who came did not come with good intentions. Jiang Xianxia had been taken away by Fang Yan at the airport, but this time she took the initiative to look for him. Jiang Zhulu would not believe that she didn't have any ulterior motives. "Jiang Xianxia, you really know how to make people sad." Chapter 607. Jiang Xianxia pushed the door open and entered, just like how she had visited Jiang Zhulu countless times in the past. The difference was that Jiang Zhulu did not stand up to welcome her this time. Jiang Zhulu sat behind his desk and stared coldly at Jiang Xianxia, who was walking in gracefully. With a face full of mockery he said, "Isn't this my wife? It's been a long time. It's strange that it's so difficult to see my wife." Jiang Xianxia did not respond to Jiang Zhuyo's question. She walked straight to the sofa area in the office and sat down. Then she pressed the service bell. The secretary Lily pushed the door open and asked, "Chairman Jiang, what can I do for you?" Jiang Zhulu waved his hands and gestured for Lily to leave. Jiang Xianxia said, "Bring me a cup of coffee. You know my taste." "Hey, Miss Jiang." The secretary knew that there was a conflict between the chairman and Jiang Xianxia, but she did not know the extent of it. In her opinion, wasn't it normal for a married couple to quarrel? As for the chairman's wife's request, she naturally had to do her best to satisfy it. The secretary left and quickly brought in a cup of freshly ground Americano black coffee with a spoonful of milk and half a spoonful of sugar. This was Jiang Xianxia's usual taste. Jiang Xianxia took the black coffee and took a deep breath. She smiled and said, "Thank you, Lily. You know me better than a man. Miss Jiang, you are too polite." Lily could tell that there was something wrong with his tone. She looked at Jiang Zhulu with an aggrieved expression and left hurriedly. Jiang Zhulu leaned against the back of the chair and looked at Jiang Xianxia, who was sitting a distance away enjoying the coffee. He said, "You left in a hurry the last time but you came back openly this time. I was still waiting for the news that you were safe after landing in Paris. In the end you ran away with another man. I don't know where you went. What do you want to say this time? Lay all your cards on the table? Prepare to divorce me?" Jiang Xianxia took a small sip of her coffee and said, "I ran away in a hurry the other time because there was a mad dog chasing after me. It was still bearable to let him bite my finger, but if I were to get bitten on my throat I might not be able to keep my life. How could I not run away?" Jiang Zhulu laughed heartily. He stood up and walked toward the resting area where Jiang Xianxia was. He looked into her eyes and said, "A mad dog is still a mad dog. Aren't you afraid of getting your throat bitten off by a mad dog?" "That would depend on whether a mad dog is willing to eat it." Why? Jiang Zhulu stared at Jiang Xianxia's slender neck and said, "Did you smear poison on your neck? If there really is one, mad dog wouldn't mind trying." As Jiang Zhulu spoke, he had already sat down beside Jiang Xianxia and reached out to stroke her neck. Jiang Xianxia avoided his lecherous hands and said, "It's because I have the dog beating stick. If a dog dares to bare its teeth at me I'll hit it with a stick." Jiang Zhulu stopped what he was doing and stared at Jiang Xianxia with a burning gaze. "Is that so? I'm really curious, what kind of dog beating stick is it? Take a guess." Jiang Zhulu sat up straight and crossed his arms in a businesslike manner. He said, "Jiang Xianxia, since you're here today, you're naturally not here to reminisce about old times with me. Tell me, what is your purpose for coming here? Are you scared? Are you anxious? Jiang Xianxia looked at Jiang Zhulu and said, Actually, it's nothing much, I'm just here to humiliate you. Jiang Zhulu was stunned for a moment, then he laughed heartily. He looked at Jiang Xianxia and said, This way of speaking is very familiar, it sounds like someone. Let me think, who is it? Are you talking about Fang Yan? Yes, Fang Yan. Jiang Zhulu smiled and nodded, saying, His way of speaking is always so simple and direct. He doesn't hide anything and goes straight to the point, ruthlessly stabbing a person in the chest. No matter how much time has passed, every time I think about it, my heart will ache faintly. I didn't expect that after not seeing you for only a few days, you would learn some of his essence. That proves that I'm quite talented. Jiang Xianxia smiled and said, Jiang Zhulu, you're so smart, you must have known that this day would come, right? What kind of day? Jiang Zhulu wasn't afraid of Jiang Xianxia's threat and said, I work in the president's office on the top floor of a building worth tens of billions of dollars. I can see the entire city from the floor-to-ceiling windows, and there's a beautiful secretary at the door who satisfies all my requests. As long as I need her, she's willing to take off her clothes and kneel in front of me. I can decide the fate of tens of thousands of people with a single sentence, and I can make many people lose sleep at night with a glance. Jiang Xianxia, I knew that this day would come, I just didn't expect it to come so soon. So, you didn't hesitate to kill your own father with your own hands? Jiang Xianxia asked coldly. She didn't treat this man as a human, but as a biting dog, an extremely aggressive beast. Jiang Zhuliu's expression was ferocious and he said, I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. I really didn't kill my father. It was Fang Yan, your new boyfriend. Don't be fooled by his gentle and refined appearance, he's ruthless and vicious. As your husband, I still have to warn you. Be careful that he doesn't eat you up and kick you away, swallowing you up to the point where not even your bones are left. Thank you for your kindness, Jiang Xianxia said. You really are a dutiful ex-husband. Ex-husband? Jiang Zhulu laughed and said, I really didn't intend to divorce you. Although you have a new man, I love you so much, how can I bear to let you leave me? Xianxia, do you know? You're my most precious asset now. No matter what happens, I want to be with you. Jiang Xianxia stirred the coffee in the cup with a steel spoon. After hearing what Jiang Zhulu said, she giggled and tucked her long hair behind her ear. She said, Jiang Zhu, did you think that I came here today to lay all my cards on the table and divorce you? Did I want to take away half of your family's wealth? This has nothing to do with money, I just can't imagine how I can survive without you. Jiang Zhulu said such touching words of love, but his gaze toward Jiang Xianxia was filled with hatred and coldness. He knew very well that the wife he had married was not a kind person. In the past he wasn't afraid. On the contrary, he felt that such a wife would have the desire to conquer. However, as the situation developed, he already felt that it was difficult for him to control her. The previous time when he sent her off at the airport, he had bitten one of her fingers. After that, she eloped with Fang Yan, which proved that she was clear about the situation she would face when she went to Paris. Now she was back to take revenge. If that's what you think, then you're underestimating me. Jiang Xianxia chuckled and said, We are husband and wife. All of your assets belong to us. Although you don't have enough shares in the Long-Tu group now, you will have more or less some. If you go to jail and go to the police station, won't all these shares fall into my hands? Divorce? How is that possible? Jiang Zhulu, when you are in danger, I will not leave you no matter what. Jiang Xianxia stared at Jiang Zhulu fiercely, and her voice was filled with endless hatred. She said, I will always be by your side, I will take away everything from you, I will make you have nothing. Why do you want a divorce? Even if you take away half of the assets after the divorce, you will still have the other half. I don't want to wait until you are released from prison to have a lot of money for you to squander. Jiang Zhulu, I hope that you die in prison. Even if you are released, I want you to become a beggar on the streets. You are a good husband and I have to work hard to be a good wife. Are you satisfied with this? The premise of you saying all this is that I will go to prison. If I don't go to prison, everything will still be in my hands and you will still not get anything. You can forget about taking away Long-Tu from me. It is also my duty to send you to prison. Jiang Xianxia said calmly. In that case, you already have evidence in your hands that can throw me into prison? Yes. Jiang Xianxia said. I think it is enough. If you have evidence, you can just hand it over to the police station. Is there a need to tell me all this? Jiang Zhuo's face turned green and he said, "Moreover, I will transfer the assets that belong to me to my relatives. I will let you have everything." "Your relatives? Transfer to who?" Jiang Shangxin's face was full of disdain. She said, "If you really treat them as your relatives, then don't harm them. If you give your assets to your mother, do you think they will let her off? Your father's death has already given her a fatal blow. If you give your shares to her, you will be forcing her to a dead end. However, I quite agree with you doing this because you will realize that not only will you have nothing, but you will also have no relatives in this world." Jiang Shangxin. Jiang Zhulu shouted at Jiang Shangxin. He pressed Shangxin's palm down and said, sit down quietly. I have already said that I am here to humiliate you. The angrier you are, the more I feel satisfied. The more I feel, the better I feel." Jiang Zhuo's eyes were bloodshot with violence. He stared at Jiang Shangxin with a stern expression and said, "You should know that I can make you disappear from this world directly. Tell me, if I push you down from this building and say that you jumped down yourself, do you think others will believe me?" Chapter 608. "Miss, what do you think this is?" Fang Yingying held a dollar coin in his hand and asked with a smile. "Sir, please come down from my desk." Lily looked at him coldly as if she was looking at an idiot. "Don't be so stingy. I'm your boss's bodyguard and you're your boss's secretary. They're a couple, we might be able to develop a relationship. But unfortunately I already have a girl I like. So we can only be ordinary friends." Fang Yingying sat on Lily's desk and said with a cheeky smile. Lily rolled her eyes and said, "Sir, please don't disturb my work. Otherwise I'll call the security guards to kick you out. Have you considered the mood of your lady boss before you do this? Or do you want to replace your lady boss as the new lady boss?" Okay, I'm just joking. Come watch carefully, I'll show you a magic trick. After you see my magic trick, you won't want to see anyone else perform magic anymore." As Fang Yingying spoke, he suddenly threw the coin in his hand into the sky. Clank, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the coin. "Now it's time to witness a miracle." Fang Yingying's hand that was holding the coin clenched into a fist. Lily's eyes couldn't help but be attracted to Fang Yingying's performance. "Come, blow on my fist." Fang Yingying brought his fist in front of Lily. Lily sneered and moved her head away from the fleshy fist. "I'll do it myself." Fang Yingxiong leaned over and blew on his fist. Then he suddenly opened his fist. Dang, no. Lily also looked at Fang Yingying's fat palm in surprise. She clearly saw him holding the coin in his hand. How did this man really make the coin disappear? Strange. Where did the coin go? Fang Yingying said with a smile. He reached out to touch Lily's head. "In my hair," said Lily. Although she hadn't seen any magic in real life, she had seen countless magic performances on TV, in movies, and at New Year's parties every year. She understood the tricks of those people. They could make pigeons out of hats, eggs out of people's hair, or even stranger things. Fang Yingying rubbed his hand over Lily's head, then opened his palm and said, "No." Fang Yingying's hand brushed across Lily's neck, then he opened his palm and said, "Still nothing." Fang Yingying's hand still wanted to touch Lily's chest, but Lily pushed it away and said, "If you keep doing this, I'm going to call security. Don't you want to solve the mystery?" Fang Yingying asked with a smile. "Boring," Lily said disdainfully. This method of picking up girls was too outdated. "Now it's time to witness a miracle." Fang Yingying pointed at his shoe and said, "I didn't catch it just now, so the coin fell on my shoe. You didn't expect that, did you?" Lily really wanted to beat this fatso to death. This was the most annoying fatso she'd ever seen. Am I right? After seeing my performance, do you not want to see other people perform magic anymore? Fang Yingying asked with a proud expression. "You're right." Lily glared at Fang Yingying and said, "I don't want to see magic anymore for the rest of my life. After the hero, there will be no more heroes." Fang Yingying felt lonely at the top. This was a war. Jiang Zhulu knew this very well. This woman was a poisonous snake that wanted to bite people. Right now, she opened her sexy little mouth and was about to spit venom at him. Of course, he couldn't just let himself be captured. Bang! Jiang Zhulu suddenly opened his palm in midair and said aloud, "Your beautiful body will fall from this tall building and smash into pieces on the hard concrete floor." Someone screamed and more people ran over to watch. "The police will draw a circle with chalk along your body. And your mother will cry her heart out on top of your body. She just lost a family member and soon she'll lose another one. I feel very bad in my heart too. After all, you're my wife, the woman I love the most in my life, and I'm so familiar with your body. Jiang Zhulu, Jiang Xianxia gritted her teeth and said, "Why? You can't take it anymore? Didn't you say it before? You're here to humiliate me, so you have to be prepared to be humiliated." Jiang Xianxia thought for a while and her beautiful eyebrows smoothed out again. She smiled and said, "The story is very interesting, and then? I'll tell them that we had an intense argument, and I'll also use the video of you being taken away by another man on the plane to tell them that you've cheated. I'll tell them that you forced me to divorce you. I wasn't willing to agree to it, so you threatened to jump off the building. In the end, the heel of my shoe became unstable and I accidentally fell. Oh yes, Lily can also prove that everything I said is true. This is my territory and you have to die however I want you to die. Everyone here is my people and they have to say whatever I want them to say. My reputation will suffer a little, but who the hell cares about their reputation at this point in time?" Jiang Zhuliu's body slowly moved closer to Jiang Xianxia. He looked at her with a gentle gaze and said, "Xianxia, why do you have to do this? 100 years of hard work and 1,000 years of hard work, we can sleep together. We're a married couple, so why do we have to go this far? We did have some conflicts in the past, but they were all caused by Zhang Junling. You know that second young master is a little extreme and he will definitely get what he wants. No one can resist him. But it won't happen in the future because he suddenly disappeared as if he had never been to Huaqing. Let's just treat the past as an unpleasant dream, okay? I just spoke to young Master Junxing on the phone and he hopes that I can give him some support." Young Master Junxing has a gentler personality and I believe that he will treat us well and support us. The Jiang family will rise again and Longtu will prosper once again. Xianxia, you will still be respected by the world and envied by all women. Let's start over, okay? Xianxia giggled so hard that the coffee in the coffee cup splashed out. Xianxia giggled so hard that her entire body trembled. She placed the coffee cup on the coffee table in front of her, smiled and said, "Jiang Zhilu, I have to say that you are indeed a talent. A shameless person is invincible. Jiang Junling just left and you're already cozying up to young Master Junxing? How much do you want to make life difficult for the Jiang family?" Jiang Zhilu chuckled and said, "I can't help it, the Jiang family has the thickest thighs. If I send you to prison, it will be considered as getting rid of a scourge for the Jiang family." Jiang Xianxia smiled and said, "Although I don't like the Jiang family. I don't like the Jiang family either." Jiang Zhulu reached out to hold Jiang Xianxia's hand and said, "So, why don't we replace them with the Jiang family?" "Jiang Zhulu, how dare you say something like this? A soldier who doesn't want to be a general is not a good soldier. Everyone knows this, so why can't we say it out loud?" Jiang Zhulu smiled and said. Jiang Xianxia dodged Jiang Zhuliu's evil claws and slapped him on the face. Smack. "Don't touch me, I feel disgusted when I see a man like you." Jiang Zhulu ignored the purplish-red bruise on his face and grinned. "Didn't you specially rush over to see a disgusting man like me?" "No, I wanted to witness something." "What is it?" "Witness you being arrested by the police." Jiang Zhulu stared at Jiang Xianxia with a sharp gaze and said, "Did you bring the police here?" "Of course." Clang. The electronic door to the office was pushed open, and Fang Yingying walked in with a group of men in police uniforms. The secretary Lily followed behind them in a panic and explained to Jiang Zhulu anxiously, "Boss, they stole my access card." When Fang Yingying was performing magic for Lily, he had already taken the electronic card from her chest, which allowed her to enter Jiang Zhuliu's office freely. It was also because of Fang Yingying's help that these police officers were able to stand at the entrance of Jiang Zhuliu's office without any obstruction. Jiang Zhulu waved his hand and said, "It's okay." Jiang Zhulu stared at the police officers who were walking toward him and asked, "May I know what crime I have committed that requires all of you to come and arrest me?" The middle-aged police officer who was leading the team showed his identification to Jiang Zhulu and said in a deep voice, "I am Chen Aiyang, the team leader of the crime squad. We suspect that you are involved in an intentional murder case. Please follow us back for investigation." While Chen Aiyang was speaking, the other policemen had already cleverly surrounded Jiang Zhulu. After all, the person they were facing was a murderer. This kind of person was extremely dangerous and no one knew what kind of crazy things he would do. "I want to see my lawyer," Jiang Zhulu said. He said to the secretary Lily, call lawyer Zhang. No, get the entire legal team of the company here. Just as Lily was about to make the call, Jiang Xianxin got up from the sofa, looked at Lily and said, Jiang Zhulu has been arrested and I am in charge of all the matters of the Longtu group now. Oh, I am also in charge of Jiang Zhulio's personal matters. Lily looked at Jiang Zhulu with a troubled expression and hesitated if she should make the call immediately. Jiang Zhulu had been arrested by the police, and Jiang Xianxin had become the new controller of the Longtu group. If she still listened to Jiang Zhulio's orders, how would Jiang Xianxin deal with her? Lily, Jiang Zhulu looked at Lily calmly and said, I will be fine and I will be back very soon. Call lawyer Zhang. Jiang Xianxin walked to the police officers and said, Comrade police, he is my husband and he is a scumbag. Take him away, I will find him the best lawyer. Chen Aiyang waved his hand and shouted, Take him away. Chapter 609. Jiang Xianxin was indeed not here to divorce Jiang Zhulu. It would be too easy for him to do so now. As his wife, Jiang Xianxin had a lot of power to make decisions when Jiang Zhulu was a suspect. For example, she could ask the police to take Jiang Zhulu away, decide when to let the company's lawyer intervene, and even decide whether the lawyer would plead for Jiang Zhulio's innocence or guilt. Obviously, Jiang Zhulu realized that he was in a very dangerous situation. Jiang Xianxin, you be *t, Jiang Zhulu scolded. You're setting me up. I did not do anything, I was framed. Jiang Xianxin looked at the team leader of the crime squad, Chen Aiyang, and said, From now on, can everything he says be used as evidence in court? Logically speaking, yes. Chen Aiyang nodded. I won't do that. Jiang Xianxin said, because he is my husband. I love him. Chen Aiyang chuckled and said, Miss Jiang is the victim. If you are not willing to pursue his responsibility, then we can pretend that nothing happened. Thank you for your understanding. Jiang Xianxin said gratefully. Then I will have to trouble you. Help me take good care of my husband and don't torture him. He has never suffered in his life. You are too polite. We will take good care of him. Chen Aiyang waved his hand and Jiang Zhulu was taken away by a group of police officers. Jiang Xianxin, you be *t, you will regret it if you dare to plot against me. Lily, call lawyer Zhang. Jiang Zhulu shouted at the top of his lungs, but his voice was getting further and further away. When the office door was closed again, his voice had completely disappeared. Jiang Xianxin was not only here to witness the moment when Jiang Zhulu was taken away by the police. She also wanted to take control of the Longtu group after Jiang Zhulu was taken away, so that there would not be any internal chaos in the Longtu group. This would give people with ulterior motives an opportunity to take advantage of. Only Jiang Xianxin, Fang Yingying, and Lily were left in the office. Just as Lily was about to leave, Jiang Xianxin shouted, Lily. Lily shuddered, turned around and asked Jiang Xianxin, Miss Jiang, do you have any other instructions? He sat Xianxin down on Jiang Zhulio's swivel chair and leaned back slightly. Looking up at Lily, who was sitting cautiously in front of him, he said, Let's have a chat. Lily became even more nervous and said, Miss Jiang, what do you want to talk about? I don't know anything. I'm just Mr. Jiang's secretary. I don't know what he did. Lily, do you remember what I said just now? You understand me better than any man, so I'm happy to let you continue to be the secretary of the chairman. Lily looked at Jiang Xianxin in shock and asked, Miss Jiang, is this true? Yes. That's what I think, Jiang Xianxin said. However, there's still a small barrier in my heart. I feel a little uncomfortable. Jiang Zhulu is my man, my husband. It's natural for me to have sex with my man, and you've also had sex with my man, Sister Jiang Shang. Lily's beautiful face lost all color and said, Do you want to say that you didn't? I'm not. You didn't do it willingly? Miss Jiang, I'm wrong. Lily was at a loss for words. Being able to become Jiang Zhulio's secretary, she was naturally the best choice in terms of capability. However, when facing an opponent like Jiang Xianxin, she was obviously not as capable as she wished. Jiang Xianxin waved her hand and said, What's done is done. Since it has already happened, we can only face it bravely. Who asked us women to be born in a weaker position? The cracks have already appeared and I'm willing to do some things to make up for it. In that case, what kind of effort are you willing to put in? Lily clenched her teeth. After hesitating for a while, she said, I have a name list here. It's a list of the higher-ups in Longtu Group who are usually close to Mr. Jiang. Jiang Xianxia nodded her head in satisfaction and said, Lily, go and pour me another cup of coffee. The workload today is a little heavy. Yes, Miss Jiang. Lily replied and walked out quickly to execute Jiang Xianxia's orders. From this moment onwards she had changed her identity to become Jiang Xianxia's female secretary. Jiang Xianxia then shifted her gaze to Fang Yingying's face and said, Hero. Fang Yingying was shocked and said, Miss Jiang, I have never slept with your husband. I don't like men. Furthermore, I already have a woman I like. She's a beautiful police officer. I'm currently launching a fierce attack on her, Fang Yingying explained with a serious look on his face. You must believe me on this. Jiang Xianxia sighed helplessly and said, Are all men with the surname Fang so cheap? Not really. Fang Yingying shook his head and said, Some men who don't have the surname Fang are also very cheap. Jiang Xianxia took the cup of coffee that Lily brought over and drank it to moisten her throat. Only then was she able to continue the conversation with Fang Yingying. She said, I really have to thank you for today. I only used a brilliant magic trick to confuse the secretary and found the special elevator card and Jiang Zhuliu's office card from her. Actually, I wasn't of much help, Fang Yingying said humbly. I still have to thank you. Jiang Xianxia stood up. She was very clear about the relationship between Fang Yingying and Fang Yan. She really couldn't put on the airs of a superior when dealing with this person. Can you give me some personal space? I want to make a few phone calls. You want me to go out first, right? Just tell me directly. Fang Yingying said, I'm a very smart person. I'll understand once you say it. After Fang Yingying walked out, Jiang Xianxia took out her cell phone from her bag and dialed a familiar number. The call was picked up very quickly. Jiang Xianxia said in a sweet voice, The matter has been settled. Jiang Zhulu has been taken away by Officer Chen from the crime squad. What instructions do you have? Take control of Longtu. A man's voice came from the other end of the line. Longtu Group is so big and complicated. I'm afraid I can't do it. Jiang Xianxia said timidly. A man's teasing laughter came from the other end of the line. He said, Are you sure you can't do it? If you really think that you're not capable, then I'll get someone else to do it. I believe that Chowga can do it well. You're so annoying. Jiang Xianxia said coquettishly, I'm just saying. Can't you encourage me? With the shares in my hands and the shares that you can control now, we have enough power to speak in Longtu Group. What's left is to kick out the other unimportant people. Can you do it? I'll work hard. Jiang Xianxia said. Not work hard. You must do it. The man's voice became stern. He said, I know it's difficult. You have to face the Lan family and the Jiang family. You can only choose between the Jiang family and me. If you can't do it, I'll choose someone who can. Yes. I'll definitely do it. Jiang Xianxia clenched her teeth and said, I believe you. The man's voice became gentle again. It's not too late to quit now. I don't like to force others. I don't like to put others in a dilemma. That kind of feeling, it's really not good. I can't quit. Jiang Xianxia said, because I know that this is my best chance. Good luck. The man said. When are you coming back? When can I see you? Everything depends on fate. The man said. The call had been hung up. She could only hear the busy tone. Jiang Xianxia held her phone in a daze. She thought that the most important thing for her now was to control the overall situation. She pressed the phone and said, Lily, ask Lawyer Zhang to come and see me. Everything depends on fate. Tianjizi was busy cutting the dried herbs into small neat pieces. He answered without turning his head. What kind of person is fated destiny? Fang Yan said impatiently, Where does he live? I'll go and ask him when he's going to give me the Tai Chi painting. It's not the right time yet. Tianjizi said. Am I the dragon soul guardian that you've chosen? Yes. Tianjizi replied. One of them. You said that you'll give me the Tai Chi painting as long as I achieve the heart of 3 treasures. Fang Yan said. I said that you'll have the chance to become my disciple when you achieve the heart of 3 treasures. Tianjizi said. Aren't you guys lying? Fang Yan said angrily. It's like you tricked someone to spend 1 million on a lottery ticket, but the first prize is a bicycle. Tianjizi waved the medicine knife in his hand and slashed at Fang Yan's head. He shouted, Who are you calling a bicycle? Fang Yan cleverly dodged the attack and said, "Old man, don't be angry. I just want to reason with you. You've kept me in suspense, but you're not willing to take it out for me to see. I still don't know if there's such a thing as the Tai Chi painting. The Tai Chi painting isn't with me," Tianjizi said. Fang Yan opened his eyes wide and asked, "Where is it?" "Where it should be. Do you know what I don't like the most about you quacks? You're always rambling on and on. Things that can be explained in a single sentence, but you're making it so confusing. Where exactly is it?" Tianjizi put down the hatchet and took the towel from Fang Yan to wipe his hands. Then he took the teacup from Fang Yan and took a sip of tea. Then he said, "Are you really ready to accept the Tai Chi painting and take on the responsibility of protecting the dragon soul?" "I'm not ready yet," Fang Yan said. "I just want to check the goods first, to see what the Tai Chi painting is." Chapter 610. Fang Yan was not despicable. He felt that he was just too smart. Here was a very simple example. If there was an item priced at 1 million, as long as you brought 1 million, you might be able to own this item. In that case, wouldn't you first have to look at the magic of this item before you would have the motivation to desperately earn that 1 million? Another simpler example. If there was a girl, you had to treat her well for the rest of your life. Then you had to know and understand this girl first before you were willing to entrust your life to her. First a blind date, then a marriage. That was the right thing to do. How could there be people who didn't even see a girl's face or touch her hand, yet they wanted someone to take responsibility first? What kind of behavior was that? That was an arranged marriage in a feudal society. That was an immoral act of restricting personal freedom. First, let me see what the Tai Chi diagram looks like and what's so magical about it. Only then will I be willing to fulfill the responsibility of protecting the dragon soul. Although I still don't know what the dragon soul is and why we need to protect it. As Fang Yan spoke, he stared unblinkingly at Tianjizi's body. As soon as he felt something was wrong, he would turn around and run for his life. If you just throw me a black and white Tai Chi diagram that can be bought for 10 yuan on the street and then say that the responsibility of protecting the dragon soul will be handed over to me, what's the difference between you and those swindlers who sell martial arts manuals on the street and throw a copy of the Buddha's palm to those swindlers who say that the responsibility of protecting the peace of the universe will be handed over to them? Master, times have changed. There are fewer swindlers. We have to find a way to improve the professional level of swindlers. If not, why don't you go back to the headquarters and study? This time Tianjizi was not angry. Holding the teacup, he carefully tasted the exquisite ambergris and said, "Speaking of which, it makes sense. Then you mean that I can look at the Tai Chi diagram first?" "No," Tianjizi said. "Although what you said is very reasonable. But the Tai Chi diagram has been passed down for thousands of years, and there has never been a candidate as difficult as you. Everyone who is selected will regard it as their greatest honor. They will try their best to complete the test and become the final winner of the Tai Chi diagram. This rule has never changed, and it will not change for anyone in the future. You know it's a bad habit, but you still insist on it?" Fang Yan said helplessly. "There's no right or wrong, it's just a matter of personal choice. If you think it's worth it, then give it your all. If you think it's not worth it, then don't look at it." Tianjizi said, "If anyone could go there and take a look, what mystery would there be in the Tai Chi diagram? When I get my hands on this Tai Chi painting, I'll make 1,000 copies of it. I'll give a copy to whoever has a good relationship with me. I'll also give a copy to whoever says I'm handsome." Tianjizi laughed out loud and said, "The premise is that you can obtain the Tai Chi diagram." The divine Jizi looked at Fang Yan and said, "After this period of recuperation, your body has more or less recovered. As long as you don't use too much strength, there won't be too much danger. But you still haven't left the mountain. Why is that?" Fang Yan looked at the setting sun on the top of the mountain in the distance and said softly, "What is righteousness? What is evil? What is love? What was hatred? A person's life is 100 years long. Is it the ambition in our hearts that we pursue? Or is it the worldly view? If God has eyes, then he should open his eyes and take a good look at the world, to see that there are so many despicable, shameless and ruthless bad people in the world, and there are also good people like me who are pure, kind and hold on to our ideals. The bad people should be sent to hell and the good people should be allowed to enjoy the happiness of the world, Speak like a normal person. The divine Jizi had to stop this guy from expressing himself and praising himself. It was said that everyone had a face, but he had never seen Fang Yan go out with a face. He didn't know where he usually hid his face. I'm just thinking that everyone's time is very precious. You should give me the Tai Chi diagram as soon as possible to save time. You've been looking for it for so many years. Is there anyone more suitable than me? Anyway, it will be mine sooner or later, so it's better to give it to me as soon as possible. Fang Yan said it so confidently that no one could refute him at all. Although I don't know what the Tai Chi diagram is, I know that this Tai Chi diagram must have something to do with our Taoist Tai Chi. You also saw that I was beaten half to death by that old man Song transplanting seedlings. If I had understood the Tai Chi diagram earlier, I could have taken my revenge earlier. The Tai Chi diagram is a great treasure in the world. It doesn't belong to one person but to everyone in the world. Moreover, the owner of the Tai Chi diagram must not be selfish and must not seek personal revenge. Fang Yan sneered and said, "Bullshit, don't be selfish, don't seek personal revenge. Everyone has 7 emotions and 6 desires. Who doesn't have selfishness? Who doesn't seek personal revenge? I have a big grudge with that scum Jiang Junling, and I will not rest until that old dog Song Zaniong is dead. If you can't be selfish and seek personal revenge, you can give that thing to whoever you want. I don't want it anymore." With that, Fang Yan turned around and left. Immeasurable Lord of Heaven. Tianjizi recited the name, his heart beating fast. The long-eyebrowed monk with a wooden fish in his hand came out of the inner room. Looking at Tianjizi's worried face, he laughed and said, "What do you think of this boy?" "Let's wait and see," Tianjizi said helplessly. "He is too evil, not a blessing for the Tai Chi diagram." "I think Fang Yan is not bad," the long-eyebrowed monk said with a smile. Tianjizi looked at the long-eyebrowed monk with a bitter smile and said, "Old monk, why do you have to oppose me? When I thought he was good, you thought he was not good and said, 'Let's wait and see.' Now when I say he is not good, you jump out and say he is good. What on earth are you thinking? Whether it is Buddhism or Taoism, we are all monks. Monks pay attention to the emptiness of the 4 elements. Do not get involved in the world, do not get involved in karma. But can we really do it? We eat firewood and rice, wear clothes of hundreds of families, and live in the best house on Mingchuan Mountain. How can we not get involved in the world? Do not get involved in karma? Believers call us old immortals, but we know that we are not real immortals. If we are not real immortals, if we want to live, we naturally have to get involved in the karma of the world. Whether we believe it in our hearts or not, we must insist on it with our mouths. Uphold justice, uphold benevolence, and uphold forgiveness. Because we are monks, our identity has already determined our way of thinking. What Fang Yan said is very reasonable. Who doesn't have selfishness? Who doesn't seek revenge? He lives more thoroughly than we do. So what? Tianjizi asked. Even if we think Fang Yan is not bad, he is still not the most suitable candidate for the Tai Chi diagram. Yes. The long-eyebrowed monk sighed. The Tai Chi diagram is unstable in yin and yang. If it falls into the hands of the righteous, it will be good, but if it falls into the hands of the evil, it will be evil. If it falls into the hands of the murderous, then there is only one word: kill. Sigh, let's wait a little longer, Tianjizi sighed. Tianjizi lived on a mountain, and it was a mountain that Fang Yan was familiar with, Xianxia Mountain. The first time Fang Yan and Tianjizi met was in a tea house on Xianxia Mountain. That tea house was opened by a Daoist disciple. Therefore, when Fang Yan was rescued by Tianjizi and the long-eyebrowed monk, he was also on the mountain when he opened his eyes. He spent a lot of time on the mountain. One reason was to nurse his body. Since ancient times, medicine and Taoism were inseparable. Tianjizi's prescriptions were not comparable to those of ordinary doctors. Another reason was to obtain the Tai Chi diagram from his master. This time, when he was in danger on the summit of One Sword Peak, Fang Yan once again realized that he was weak. He needed a stronger power to protect himself. While protecting himself, he was also protecting his family. He could not die. He did not want to die. Unfortunately, Tianjizi was still unwilling to give in. Fang Yan did not know what the criteria for the guardian dragon soul to obtain the Tai Chi diagram were, and Tianjizi and the long-eyebrowed monk had never mentioned it. Moreover, he felt that after the incident at One Sword Peak, he was getting further and further away from the Tai Chi diagram. Previously, Xianxia and the long-eyebrowed monk had fooled him by saying that as long as he achieved the Heart of Three Treasures, he could get, the opportunity to become Xianxia's disciple. But now they were not even willing to mention anything about the Tai Chi diagram in front of Fang Yan. It was just like how Fang Yan had nothing to do with it. Because of what? Was his body filled with evil energy? Was it filled with the desire for revenge? Now that Bai Xiu was dead, Fang Yan felt as though a huge rock had been lifted off his chest. In the past 3 years, the greatest physical and mental pressure on Fang Yan was to avenge his father. As long as he did not avenge his father, he would not be able to eat or sleep in peace. Bai Xiu's accidental exposure this time was a good thing for him. Finally, he thrust his sword, that fatal sword strike. Of course, just as the old enmity was gone, new enmity was born. This time, the target of Fang Yan's revenge was Jiang Junling, and even the entire family of generals behind Jiang Junling. Of course, Fang Yan was not as anxious as before. Because the person Bai Xiu bullied was his father, and he could not tolerate others bullying his father without paying any price. And the person Jiang Junling bullied was himself. Fang Yan was a person who had very low standards for himself. The road down the mountain was long and far, and Fang Yan wanted to find a hotel to rent a car. As he walked along the road down the mountain, a black object suddenly fell in front of Fang Yan. Pa! There was a loud noise as if something had been broken. If it was a person, they would have fallen half to death. Fang Yan looked at it carefully. It was really a person. Chapter 6:11. The black object was a person. Its limbs were curled up like a poisonous snake with its tail coiled up. It was a woman. Her body was tied up by a strange method. Although there was no rope on her body could only curl into a ball and couldn't move. Her left hand was holding her right leg and her right hand was hugging her waist. It looked like an extremely rare and difficult yoga pose. If the body didn't have a certain degree of flexibility, it would have probably twisted a person to death. Although she could not move her body, her eyes were still turning, her gaze filled with malice as she stared viciously at Dou Yan standing in front of her. It looked like she could pounce and bite him at any time. Bang! A young man in gray sportswear jumped down from the hillside. He walked to Fang Yan but didn't say anything. He just stared at Fang Yan with his bloodshot brown eyes. Fang Yan grinned and explained with a bit of guilt. Something happened at the time. I was surrounded by a group of powerful people. I even called out your name. Unfortunately, you might have run into some trouble at the time. Later, I fainted from exhaustion and was saved. When I woke up, I was worried about your safety, but I didn't know where to find you. It's good to see that you're fine now. The Snake Lord looked at Fang Yan in surprise and said, You don't blame me? Blame you for what? Fang Yan asked in return. Aren't you afraid that I'll betray you? The Snake Lord stared at Fang Yan with a burning gaze. Fang Yan looked at the Snake Lord seriously and said, When I was about to go down the mountain, I found that you were gone, and the enemies appeared one after another. At the time I did suspect you. I thought that you were in cahoots with them. You worked together to set up this sure kill trap in order to kill me. If I died, wouldn't you be able to get the snake's eye in my hands? You are a Snake Lord, so you naturally have your own pride. You don't want to be controlled by others, so you want to regain control of your own fate. This is very normal. Since you suspect me, have you ever thought of crushing my snake eye? The Snake Lord asked. He and Fang Yan had known each other for many years. He was familiar with Fang Yan and even understood Fang Yan. He knew that he wasn't a man who was stuck in a corner, and he wasn't a man who couldn't bear to be ruthless. If someone angered him, he would do something that that person would regret for the rest of his life. I've thought about it, Fang Yan answered honestly. After I woke up, I did think about crushing your snake's eye. I even took it out and looked at it a few times. I have to say your eyes don't look good. Especially your eyes at this time. Seeing Snake Lord's increasingly confused eyes, Fang Yan said with a smile, But what if I've wronged you? What if I'm wrong? You care about my life? The Snake Lord's throat squirmed as he asked in disbelief. I'm not a murderous demon, why would I not care about your life and death? You also know that I've never taken the initiative to hurt anyone since I was young. You're also a living being. If I crush your snake's eye because of my own guesses and delusions, then, what's the difference between me and those murderous demons? The Snake Lord's eyes were moist and he remained silent for a long time. What kind of F***ed-up society was this? The sister he brought out from the orphanage, the sister he depended on for survival, the sister he didn't hesitate to become a slave for, the only family he had left in this world, the person he had been painstakingly searching for. They finally met, but what awaited them was her betrayal. She poisoned him using the method she was best at. The only hope in his life turned into despair, and the only lighthouse led him into hell and death. He felt that he would rather die than live. However, contrary to all of this, the person he wanted to kill in the past, the person he made a slave in order to save his sister, the person he wanted to escape from the control of every moment, the person who controlled his life and death, the person who controlled his fate, the person who held the snake eye in his hand, when his life fell to the bottom, the person chose to help him. He cared about his safety and he gave him his trust. Perhaps to Fang Yan what he had given him was insignificant and insignificant. But to the Snake Lord it was like a piece of wood when he was drowning, an oasis in the desert. This was enough to save his life. In life there would always be some people who were worth sacrificing for. The Snake Lord looked at Fang Yan and said, "I came to you because I owe you an explanation." He pointed at the woman in black lying on the ground and said, "She's my sister." Oh, Fang Yan didn't even want to look at the woman in black and kept his eyes on the Snake Lord and said, "You threw her in front of me and I've already understood a lot of things. What I want to tell you is, in life who wouldn't meet a few cruel and unscrupulous people? You're just a bit more unlucky than others. You only have one person by your side and she's an idiot. But this is good. After you've confirmed that she's an idiot, you don't have to be nice to her anymore. Be nice to yourself even if you're an idiot. It's a comfortable idiot." The Snake Lord's nose was a bit sore but he still stubbornly explained, "She went to find me and poisoned me. I wanted to save you but I lost control of my body. After I escaped I ran to find you and saw you being carried by a Daoist priest and walking here. I followed them, guarding the mountain." Fang Yan nodded and said, "Are you okay?" The Snake Lord said, "I'm fine." Fang Yan sighed softly and looked at the pitiful man in front of him. He took out an old sheepskin bag from his pocket and threw it to the Snake Lord, saying, "This is your snake's eye. I've been prepared to return it to you. Your sister has been found. Although the results weren't ideal, she's still alive. So, there's no need for you to stay by my side to protect me anymore." The Snake Lord took the snake's eye and asked in a muffled voice, "Where do I go?" "Where do you want to go?" The Snake Lord thought seriously and said, "I don't know. I used to want to find my sister and bring her back to Xianxia, but now she doesn't want to go back." "You used to live for her, now live for yourself," Fang Yan said. "Set her free and set yourself free as well." The Snake Lord looked at Fang Yan and said, "You're not going to kill her?" "I'm not going to kill her," Fang Yan said. "The person she betrayed is you and the person she hurt is also you. If I kill her it will only make you hate me. Why would I do such a stupid thing?" The Snake Lord thought about it and said, "I want to go with you." "Then set her free," Fang Yan said. The Snake Lord nodded and said, "Fine." The Snake Lord crouched down and looked at his sister's hate-filled eyes, saying, "I'll let you go." As he spoke he pulled out one of his sister's arms. Like a dead knot, once the thread was untied the other knots would also be solved. The Snake Lord then took out a medicine bottle from his pocket. He poured out a red pill from the bottle and fed it to his sister. Bang! The woman flipped over and pushed the Snake Lord to the side with a slap. She stared at Fang Yan fiercely and asked, "Did you kill him? Who are you talking about?" Fang Yan was confused. The Snake Lord's expression became even more pained, and when he saw Fang Yan looking at him he turned his face to the side. He didn't want to hear that man's name. Every time he heard it, it was like stabbing a knife into his heart. He didn't know what love was but he could clearly feel what pain was. He was in so much pain. "Bai Xiu, you killed Bai Xiu, didn't you? You killed Bai Xiu?" The woman's eyes turned blood red and her body made cracking sounds. Every part of her body could move freely. The Snake Lord looked at her and said, "Go." The woman didn't care about the Snake Lord's words at all. She didn't even turn around to look at him. She stared at Fang Yan without blinking. Her body was bent and her head was tilted forward. She looked like she would rush up and fight Fang Yan at any time. The Snake Lord was like a furious lion and he roared at his sister, "Go, I said go." The Snake Lord's shoulders tightened and her hands turned into claws. As long as she waited for an opportunity, she would rush up and tear Fang Yan to pieces. You killed Bai Xiu. Why did you kill Bai Xiu? I want to avenge him. I want to kill you. As she spoke, the woman in black suddenly dashed toward Fang Yan. Her body was like a spring, but also like a poisonous snake that wanted to attack its prey. Her body was light and agile, and her steps were strange. Hissing sounds came from her mouth. It was the sound that poisonous snakes would make when they attacked. Clang! The snake lord rushed up from behind and grabbed his sister's shoulder. He punched her in the face, causing her body to crash into the rocks on the side. The snake lord followed closely behind and grabbed the black-clothed woman's throat. He pressed his sister's head and slammed it against the stone wall. Clang! The woman's head slammed against the stone, and a bloody groove appeared on her forehead. Clang! The black-clothed woman's head was once again smashed against the stone, and the bones inside also made a cracking sound. Clang, clang, clang. The snake lord seemed to have gone mad. He kept slamming the woman's head against the stone wall. Paw! He let go of his sister's neck and slammed his head against the stone wall. Clang, clang, clang. Why are you forcing me like this? The snake lord roared with grief and indignation. Why are you forcing me like this? Chapter 6:12. Clang, clang, clang. The snake lord banged his head on the rock again and again. He struck himself until his head bled, he struck himself until his bones rattled, he struck the wall until it cracked, and then there was a rustling of broken sand and stones falling to the ground. He wanted to smash his way out of his pain, to smash through his despair. He wanted to relieve the pain in his head and relieve the pain in his heart. He could endure and cure headaches, but he could not do anything about the heartache. He did not want to hurt his sister and make her hurt him again and again. When she recklessly rushed towards Fang Yan, he had to make a move. He knew that if he waited for Fang Yan to make a move, only death would be waiting for his sister. He knew Fang Yan's strength too well. At that time he used all his strength, but he was still easily strangled. If he had not taken the initiative to beg for mercy and offered his snake eye, Fang Yan might have broken his neck on the spot. Although his sister was also a snake woman, her strength was far inferior to his. With Fang Yan's current ability, strangling her was no different from killing an ant. The snake lord did not see the scene of Fang Yan fighting with others, so he did not know the fact that he was seriously injured. She wanted to avenge that man and kill Fang Yan. In order to protect her, he had to take the initiative to attack her. The snake lord felt that he was too wronged and too suffocated. He was like a balloon that was full of air, and a slight touch could cause him to explode with a bang. After he attacked his sister, the snake lord felt that death was better than living. He had never treated her like this since he was young. He hoped that he was the one who experienced all this, just that his sister could live well. Fang Yan stood to the side and watched the snake lord go crazy, but he did not intend to stop him. He could understand the snake lord's feelings at this moment, just as he could understand the phoenix's feelings at that time. In life, people had to go through countless difficult choices. He chose his sister, but she chose another man. He was a loser, a pitiful person. From now on he would have no relatives in this world, right? He did not know who to share his joy with, and he did not know who to tell his pain. He was like a transparent person. Quang! The snake lord slammed his head against the stone, and a protruding sharp stone pierced his forehead. Then blood spurted out of his head. The snake lord finally calmed down and felt a little dizzy. Fang Yan took out a large medicine bottle from his pocket and threw it over, saying, "Stop the bleeding." This medicine was stolen from Tianjizi's pharmacy. It had a miraculous effect on stopping bleeding and removing blood stasis. It was a must-have medicine in Jianghu. Snake Lord took the bottle and poured some gray powder onto his forehead. Then he returned the bottle to Fang Yan. Feeling better? Fang Yan asked Snake Lord. "I feel better now," Snake Lord said. "Come back with me if you're comfortable," Fang Yan said. "If you don't have a place to eat, eat at my place. If you have no place to stay, stay at my house. If you have no place to go, make my house your own. From now on we are friends and brothers. If you don't mind." Snake Lord's throat felt like it was winter, but he couldn't say anything. Fang Yan reached his hand out to Snake Lord and smiled. "You don't want to?" "No." Snake Lord shook his head. I don't think I deserve." Fang Yan grinned and said, You're the Snake Lord, the King of Snakes. As long as you don't ask me to kowtow to you every morning and night, everything else won't be a problem." Snake Lord opened his mouth and wanted to laugh, but then started crying again. He wiped the tears from his eyes and said, "I'll go back with you. We are friends, brothers," Fang Yan said. Friends. Snake Lord struggled to say this word. In his previous life, he had never said this word to anyone. To him it was something unattainable. Brothers. Fang Yan clenched his withered and skinny hand and said, "That's right." Snake Lord wanted to dodge. He wasn't used to being so close to people. His right foot took a step back, but his left foot remained standing. He thought that it was time for him to make some changes. His little sister was right about one thing: he should live in the city among people. He should have friends, brothers. He should have a different life. "Let's go," Fang Yan said. Snake Lord nodded, but his gaze couldn't help but fall to the ground. After being hit by Snake Lord's crazed attacks, the woman in black's head was heavily injured. After the Snake Lord loosened his grip on her neck, her body softly fell to the ground. It was like a lifeless corpse. Her forehead was bruised, blood staining the rocks and weeds on the ground. "Let's go," Fang Yan said. "She's letting go of you, you should also let go of her. She will have her own new life, and so will you." The Snake Lord nodded and followed Fang Yan down the mountain with large strides. Fang Yan walked quickly while Snake Lord walked boldly. To them this was a journey to a new life. After walking for a few kilometers, Fang Yan suddenly realized a serious problem. "You're wrong," Fang Yan said. Snake Lord was stunned and asked, "What's wrong?" "We should rent a car down the mountain." In the interrogation room, Jiang Zhulu felt like his skin was about to be roasted by the strong light on his face. He couldn't turn his face away, let alone change his position. He was no longer one of the 4 young masters of Huaqing. He was a suspect who didn't receive any preferential treatment, but was rather taken care of. His lawyer hadn't arrived yet, and he guessed that Xianxia wouldn't send him a lawyer for a while. Furthermore, he didn't want Xianxia to send him a lawyer either, because those people weren't here to save him but to give him a good kick when he was falling to hell. Their arrival would only speed up his arrival. He wanted to call his mother. The only person he could trust now was his mother. As long as his mother knew that something had happened to him, she would use her grandfather's connections to bail him out. Or at least send a trustworthy team of lawyers. However, he couldn't even make a phone call. His reasonable request was rejected because they said that he might leak information to the outside world and destroy the evidence. What a joke! What exactly did he do? Jiang Zhuliu's eyes were drowsy, and he was extremely exhausted after a day and night of torment. "Jiang Zhulu, wake up." Qinayang held a large cup of coffee and stared at Jiang Zhuliu's every move. Every time he saw that Jiang Zhulu was about to close his eyes, he would suddenly yell angrily. Jiang Zhulu had been pulled back to reality from his slumber countless times. "I know what you want to do." Jiang Zhuliu's eyes were bloodshot and he sneered at Qinayang. "You want to use the interrogation method of fatigue to force me to submit, and you want me to confess when I can't take it anymore. I know that this method is very effective. But you used the wrong person. I haven't done anything illegal, so I don't have anything to confess to. Also, when my team of lawyers comes, I want to sue you for abuse of force." "We didn't abuse of force." Qinayang took a big gulp of coffee and said, "Did we touch a single finger of yours? Did we beat you? We just want to solve the case as soon as possible and not give the criminals any chance. I know that you, Jiang Zhulu, have a lot of power, and with a single word countless people will jump out to work for you. But we won't let the bad guys escape from the law. You said that I killed someone, that I have something to do with Jiang Fengxing's death." Jiang Zhuliu's body was trembling as he spoke. He really didn't have any strength left and all the energy in his body had been sucked out. If he fell asleep while speaking, it wouldn't be strange at all. "What evidence do you have? Don't you know that Jiang Fengxing is my father-in-law, my wife's father? And my father has mysteriously disappeared and he might have been killed. I should have called the police long ago, right? Instead of looking for the real murderer, you brought me the victim. Is there any justice in this world?" "Looks like you won't shed a tear until you see the coffin," Qinayang said. "I don't care what method you use and I don't care who incited you." Jiang Zhulu gritted his teeth and said, "Don't even think about making me yield." "I'm afraid it's not up to you," Qinayang said. He put down the coffee cup in his hand and said to a young policeman standing behind him, "Bring his accomplice here." "Yes." Captain, the policeman replied and walked out quickly. After a while, a few policemen brought a middle-aged man in shackles into the room. Jiangzhu, look who's here. Qin Aiyang shouted again. Jiang Zhulu struggled to open his eyes. When he saw the man standing in front of him, he was startled and asked, "Who is he? I don't know him, don't try to frame me." Jiang Zhulu, the man in the handcuffs, said with a wretched expression, "Stop struggling. When we went to pick someone up, you sat in the back of my car and almost vomited a few times. You hid it very well, but did you think no one saw it? Also, you killed your father-in-law with your own hands. There were a few witnesses at the scene and I also have evidence." Qin Aiyang looked at Jiang Zhulu, who had a grim expression, and said, "The evidence in his hands is now in the hands of the police. Jiang Zhulu, accept your fate." Blurg. Jiang Zhulu suddenly started to vomit like crazy, vomiting until his heart and lungs were torn apart. Chapter 613. Jiang Zhulu had not eaten anything for an entire day and night. He only drank a few cups of coffee provided by the police to keep him awake. Therefore he only vomited out the brownish-yellow coffee juice. He bent over, screamed at the top of his lungs, and vomited over and over again. His appearance was so exaggerated that people were worried that he would vomit out his liver, lungs, and bile. The witness's words reminded him of that day. He remembered how he had sat in the bumpy car to pick up his father, his useless and arrogant father-in-law. In order to maintain his powerful image and not be looked down upon by those arrogant martial artists, he had resisted the urge to vomit. He had held it in until today, but he finally could not control it anymore. He had used up all of his tolerance that day and vomited everything that he had prepared to vomit that day. It was also from that day onwards that he turned into a demon. It was also from that day onwards that his relationship with his wife Xianxia fell to the freezing point. It was like a reincarnation cycle. He had returned to the original path, and all the hard work he had put in between was meaningless. He was a complete failure and he could not change his fate. "Give him a cup of water," Qin Aiyang said. A policewoman went out and quickly returned with a cup of warm water. Qin Aiyang placed the cup in front of Jiang Zhulu and said, "Rinse your mouth with water." Jiang Zhulu picked up the cup of water and gulped it down. Then he placed the cup on the table and said, "I don't know him and I don't know what he is saying." The witness was furious and said, "Jiang Zhulu, I am the Eagle King. I am the driver who sent you to pick someone up that day. Do you remember who I am now?" "Well, I don't know who you are," Jiang Zhulu denied. It was impossible for him to admit that he knew this man, even though he had recognized him at first sight. He looked at Qin Aiyang with a sharp and sensitive gaze and said, "Take him away, I don't know him and I don't know what he is saying." "Jiang Zhulu, you are really stubborn. Do you think that you can just deny it? You definitely don't know that I'm equipped with the most advanced fly-eye electronic camera, right? Originally, I recorded the scene of you killing people to report to others, but I didn't expect to use it on you." Jiang Zhulu struggled to charge at the Eagle King. Just as his body moved, two strong men pounced on him and pinned him to the chair. "Cuff him," Qin Aiyang said. Ka-cha, with a crisp sound, a steel shackle appeared on Jiang Zhulu's wrist. "You bastard," Jiang Zhulu gritted his teeth and roared. He didn't expect to be destroyed by his own people. This was a betrayal to him. The Eagle King looked at him coldly and said, "If we were outside, I would have blown your head off with a single shot. In my eyes, you are just a pitiful ant." As if someone had poured a bucket of ice water on his head, Jiang Zhulu instantly became quiet. Since when did these thugs who only had brute force start to look down on him? When did this start? Remember, he was one of the 4 prodigies of Huaqing who was envied by countless people. How did he end up in such dire straits? Jiang Zhulu felt a wave of sadness in his heart. His vision darkened and he fainted. He felt his body sinking. It was a black hole that could swallow everything. Pa pa pa. It was a sound that could make one's imagination run wild. Lu Chaoga was sitting on a high chair in front of a floor-to-ceiling window working. In front of her was an Apple laptop, her hands quickly typing on it. She was working on a feasibility plan. Chaoyan Technology was prepared to invest in their own cell phone research. Chaoyan Technology's core product was the Little Flame energy product. In the past, part of their products were supplied to the military, becoming an important part of increasing Wuxia's military strength. The other part was supplied to the market. Of course, this was mainly reflected in various large-scale machines. For example, ships, planes, hybrid sports cars, or energy vehicles. This was the first time Xiaoyan Technology was preparing to put their energy products into civilian products on a large scale. Moreover, it was in the most competitive product field in the cell phone market. What was the most unsettling thing in modern social situations? It wasn't that you couldn't find a toilet when you wanted to pee, nor was it that you couldn't buy a dark beer when you wanted to drink. It was that when you were swiping your phone, the battery of the cell phone beeped and the energy bar turned red. At that time, it was really unsettling, as if there were 1,000 steel needles sitting under your butt. Whether it was Apple's cell phone with the largest market share, or other international or domestic cell phone giants, they all had to face the same problem. The battery life was too poor. Xiaoyan Technology started with energy and they didn't lack the continuous use of energy. Therefore, Lu Xiaoga targeted this business opportunity and prepared to produce a cell phone with energy. When you used an Apple phone, you could only use it for a day on a single charge. When you used Xiaoyan's cell phone, you could use it for a week on a single charge. Which one would you choose? Nonsense, of course it would be Apple. Because the Apple phone looked more pretentious. The functions of the cell phones were almost the same, and there wouldn't be much difference in technology. Even the battery life had been solved. Then there was only one problem that Lu Xiaoga had to solve. Could the phone produced by Xiaoyan improve the user's pretentiousness? Now there were two plans. One was for Xiaoyan to make his own cell phone and start all over again from the model to the internal configuration. The other plan was to acquire a second-rate cell phone company that already existed. He only needed to improve the quality of the hardware and software and install Xiaoyan's energy battery. Lu Xiaoga was busy with her work when she saw the gate of the courtyard open. Then she saw Fang Yan, the little man she hadn't seen for a while. Lu Xiaoga stopped what he was doing and walked outside. Fang Yan came back with Snake Lord. Seeing Lu Xiaoga waiting at the door, Fang Yan said with a smile, "I haven't heard your cooking for a long time. I miss it." Lu Xiaoga nodded and said, "Are you hungry? I'll cook a bowl of noodles for you." Fang Yan shook his head and said, "I've already eaten before I came back." He pointed to Snake Lord, who was standing behind him and didn't dare to come forward, and said, "His name is Fang Wend and he's my friend." Fang Wend was the name Fang Yan had just given to Snake Lord. He wanted him to understand the principle of giving up something to gain. The reason why his surname was Fang was that Snake Lord wanted to cut off the past and separate himself from everything in the past. Therefore Fang Yan asked him to follow his surname. Snake Lord himself was also very happy. Fang Wen said that he liked the name very much. "Hello." Lu Xiaoga took the initiative to reach out to Snake Lord. Snake Lord hid his hand behind his back, not daring to shake hands with Lu Xiaoga. In the past, when he still thought of himself as Snake Lord, he was careless, bloodthirsty, and didn't care about anything. But now it was different. He hoped to become friends with Fang Yan and become brothers. He hoped to become a family with Fang Yan's family, so he began to be afraid. He knew what his hand looked like. It was like a layer of snakeskin and it was prickly to the touch. He was like a monster in a normal society, like a poisonous snake that could walk normally. He was afraid that he would scare Lu Xiaoga, and he was afraid that he would ruin everything he had just obtained. It wasn't easy for him to obtain it, so he cherished it very much. His only family member in the world had betrayed him and now he had very little. Fang Yan looked at him with a smile and said, "Fang Wend, a lady took the initiative to extend her hand to you. You must shake hands with her to be a polite gentleman dash." Gentleman dash. Snake Lord chewed on this strange name. He was a snake and he lived with poisonous snakes and beasts all day long. No one had ever taught him to be a gentleman. Even his dead master had never said such a word to him. No one thought that he could be a gentleman. "Try it." Fang Yan said with a smile. "Beautiful women like gentlemen." Lu Xiaoga was quick-witted. She knew what kind of person he was when she saw Snake Lord's hiding eyes and his hand hidden in his sleeve. She took the initiative to take a step towards Snake Lord, and once again reached out her snow-white slender hand and said, "Hello, I'm Lu Xiaoga, nice to meet you dash." The Snake Lord gulped a few times before he carefully took out his hand from his sleeve. He shook Lu Xiaoga's little hand and said, "I'm Fang Shida. I'm very happy. I'm also very happy to see you." Lu Xiaoga smiled and said, Fang Yan's friend is also my friend. If you need any help, just tell me. I don't need any help. Snake Lord stammered. It was the first time he held such a beautiful woman's hand, the first time he was so close to a goddess, and the first time he smelled something so good. What was that smell? Was it perfume? Or was it a woman's natural body fragrance? Lu Chaoga smiled and looked at Fang Yan. She said meaningfully, but Fang Yan said something wrong just now. Not all beautiful women like gentlemen and some like rascals. Snake Lord became anxious and his forehead began to be covered in sweat. He hurriedly explained, I'm not a rascal. Chapter 6:14. A man in love has zero IQ. The Snake King fell in love again, but this time the object of his love was Fang Yan. He knew that he was strange and he also knew that he was not very sociable. He was like a lone wolf. No, a lone snake walking in the crowd, but it was difficult to blend in with the crowd. He rarely looked at himself in the mirror, but in his heart he knew that he was definitely not the type of handsome man that women would like, nor was he a man with a six-pack. If a man with no looks, no height, no penis and no ability to live a good life wanted to win the favor of women, then he could only spend money. However, the Snake King did not have money. No one wanted to look at the Snake King's sharp triangular eyes, and no one wanted to look at his pitted face for a few minutes. Everyone's first reaction when they saw him was to quickly look away. He was a monster in people's eyes. Who would like a snake man? Fang Yan did not despise him and took him in when he was in the most pain and despair. Lu Chaoga did not despise him either. Such a beautiful woman was like a fairy. When she looked at him, her expression was gentle, and her smile was without a trace of hypocrisy. The Snake King liked this family and he really wanted to integrate into it. Although he knew that it was a big wish, he really hoped that he could become a person that people liked. At least he didn't want to be a person that people hated when they saw him. Just like how he once hoped that the orphanage's director Fatso would like him. Therefore, after Lu Xiaoga specifically explained that some beautiful women liked hooligans, his body tensed up for no reason, and his heart was also hanging high up in his throat. I'm not a gangster. He hoped that Lu Chaoga could see him as a good person. At least he was willing to be a good person in their hearts. Lu Chaoga was stunned for a moment and then she laughed. Lu Chaoga looked at the Snake King and said, I know you're not a gangster. How can you be a gangster? You can't even tell that a real gangster is a gangster. After thinking about it, Lu Chaoga explained, I'm just kidding. Don't think too much. Because it was the first time she met the Snake King, she was not very clear about his character. But she would get to know him slowly. He tried not to touch anything that would cause him pain. Thank you, the Snake Lord blushed. Was he thinking too much? Wasn't it annoying to think too much? Then shouldn't he think less? The poor Snake King had turned into a man who was at a loss for what to do with himself. Fang Yan was a generous and stingy man. He generously introduced Lu Chaoga to the Snake Lord and smiled as they shook hands. However, when he saw that the Snake Lord had forgotten to let go of Lu Chaoga's hand, he immediately became petty again. Fang Yan patted the Snake Lord's shoulder and said, as a qualified gentleman, you shouldn't shake hands with a lady for more than a minute, 30 seconds at most. The shorter the better. Snake Lord was so scared that his body trembled. He quickly threw Lu Chaoga's hand away as if he was grabbing a stove. Fang Yan nodded with satisfaction. He looked at the Snake Lord and praised, you already have the character of a gentleman. The Snake Lord had a simple and honest smile on his face. He was very happy that he could become a qualified gentleman. Fang Yan looked at Lu Chaoga and said, Fang Wen's situation is a bit special. I want him to live with us for a while. Lu Chaoga said. I'll have someone clean up the room. Fang Yan grabbed Lu Chaoga's wrist and said, how about I buy another house in Huaqing? After the heroes and warriors came over, Fang Yan had made such a suggestion. Fang Yan was going to buy another house in Huaqing. He could take Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen to live outside. Because he felt that there were more and more people living in this villa now. It was already becoming overcrowded. Now there was the Snake Lord and he had to specially prepare a room for him. How about letting him squeeze in with Fang Haohen? In any case, one of them was as thin as a telephone pole, and the other was as short as a sapling. Neither of them was a waste of space. However, Fang Yan quickly rejected this idea. With Fang Haohen's cheap personality and vicious mouth, he would definitely make the Snake Lord suffer a fate worse than death. If the Snake Lord released his snakes and poisoned him to death, it was also very likely that it would happen. Fang Yan couldn't understand. He taught them fairness, justice, courage, and never giving in. How did they all grow up to be like this? Could it be that he was not a qualified teacher? Lu Chaoge was silent. She just looked at Fang Yan with pleading eyes. She didn't want Fang Yan to leave. She wasn't willing in the past and she wasn't willing now. If Fang Yan left, Fang Yingying and Fang Haohen would also leave. The Snake Lord who came today would also leave. In that case she would return to her previous life. She liked the feeling of living with Fang Yan very much. She liked to eat Fang Yan's cooking or cook for Fang Yan. Seeing the deep meaning in her eyes, Fang Yan's heart immediately softened. He let go of Lu Chaoge's arm and said, "Then prepare a room for me. I'll go right now." A charming smile appeared on Lu Chaoge's face as she spoke softly. Lu Chaoge ran upstairs with the nanny to get busy. Fang Yan looked at her back view and sighed softly. They couldn't possibly live together forever, right? You will stay here from now on. Fang Yan smiled and said, Jiang Shangxing was very busy. After Jiang Zhulu was arrested and sent to prison, she became the well-deserved leader of the Longtu group. In the past she had also done business, helped her mother and even started her own company. However, she had never thought that she would be in charge of an energy company with assets of tens of billions at such a young age. Furthermore, as the energy industry's performance in the global market became more and more eye-catching, the company's market value was also increasing at a speed visible to the naked eye. With Lily's cooperation, Jiang Shangxin quickly had a clear understanding of the company's situation. Those hardcore Jiang Zhulu supporters were purged, and those who were wavering were roped in. Those who were previously ostracized or oppressed by Jiang Zhulu were put in important positions by her. She constantly looked for people to talk to and frequently made phone calls. Orders were issued one after another and they received even more feedback. Ever since Jiang Shangxin came to the Longtu group and sent Jiang Zhulu away, she had not left until now. She and Lily were in a high-intensity work rhythm, but Fang Yingying was lying on the sofa in the living room, sleeping for 2 days and eating 6 boxed meals. Fang Yingying did not like to eat boxed meals, not because he felt that they were not delicious, but because the portion was too small. It would be gone after a few mouthfuls and he still had to ask for more. Fang Yingying was also a person who cared about his reputation. When he opened his mouth to ask for 4 boxed meals, his face would also burn up. Chairman Wang, thank you for your hard work, Jiang Shangxin said with a smile. This is what I should do. Wang Ming, the assistant chairman of the finance department, bowed slightly to Jiang Shangxin and replied with a smile. After the guests left, Jiang Shangxin lay on the sofa in the office, exhausted. At this point she did not even want to move a finger. Lily pushed the door open and asked Jiang Shangxin, Miss Jiang, Chairman Jiang, do you want to eat anything? No need. Jiang Shangxin waved her hand. Get someone to send me a bottle of champagne and a box of strawberries. All right, Chairman Jiang. Lily turned around and left. When Jiang Shangxin closed her eyes and was about to take a nap, the tall wooden door of the office was pushed open again. With an apologetic look, Lily said, Chairman Jiang, Mr. Jiang's mother, move aside. A stern woman's voice rang out. As she spoke, she gave Lily's body a heavy push, causing her to fall to the ground. With such a huge commotion happening right under her nose, Jiang Shangxin could not continue sleeping. When she opened her eyes and saw the woman standing at the door, she could not help but frown slightly. Jiang Zhuliu's mother was also her mother-in-law, Rin Jin. Rin Jin stared at Jiang Shangxin with bloodshot eyes and shouted, Jiang Shangxin, Jiang Zhulu has been arrested, and you still have the mood to lie in his office and sleep? Do you have any conscience? To think that I have treated you so well. Has your conscience been eaten by dogs? Jiang Shangxin had originally thought that Rin Jin was a pitiful woman. However, after being scolded by her, she felt that she was a pitiful and hateful woman. Jiang Shangxin climbed up from the sofa gracefully and reached out to flatten the creases in her dress. Placing her hands together on her knees, she looked at Rin Jin, who was standing in front of her, and said, If you are here to question my character, then I will have to disappoint you. This is the kind of person I am. So you can leave now. Jiang Shangxin, you, Renjin did not expect Jiang Shangxin to be so resolute and almost choked to death by her words. After being stunned for a while, she said angrily, Jiang Shangxin, there has been no news of Zhu Lu since he was taken away by the police. How can you not care about it? Even if there is a problem between the two of you, you should at least get the company's lawyer to check on it. I went to the police station to ask, but none of the lawyers in the company went to see Zhu Lu. What if he was tortured by them? Shangxin quickly helped Zhu Lu. Jiang Shangxin looked at Renjin and said, I got it. I will communicate with the legal team. When will you communicate with them? At a later date. When is the later date? Jiang Shangxin, get lawyer Zhang here now. I want to talk to them personally. Zhu Lu has been taken away for so long, but you have not reacted at all. Renjin stared at Jiang Shangxin with a sharp gaze and said, You are willing to do anything just to get more assets? Smack. Jiang Shangxin smashed the glass cup on the coffee table and the porcelain cup smashed against the wall. Jiang Shangxin jumped up from the sofa and hollered at Renjin, You said that I am willing to do anything for some assets? Who is the one who is willing to do anything for some benefits? I'm Jiang Zhuliu's wife, his legitimate wife. In order to curry favor with his master, he actually personally killed my father. He's the one who's unscrupulous. He is not a human, he is a beast. Do you know that your son is a beast? Chapter 6:15. The relationship between a mother-in-law and daughter-in-law was a difficult problem in the world. Renjin's attitude towards Lu Chaoga was one of concern and suppression. She saw Lu Chaoga as the best candidate for her daughter-in-law. She was willing to take care of her, but she also looked down on her psychologically. She had strict requirements for Lu Chaoga's words and actions. In her eyes, Lu Chaoga was an orphan. She was a child who was adopted by them. Other than them, she had nothing. Renjin's attitude towards Jiang Shangxin was one of love and flattery. Jiang Shangxin was not an orphan. Not only did she have both parents, but she also came from the wealthy Jiang family in the capital. If her son was married to Lu Chaoga, it was a low status, then marrying Jiang Shangxin would be a high status. Therefore it was true that Renjin treated Jiang Shangxin well. She had never mistreated Jiang Shangxin. Jiang Shangxin had a high EQ and would give her mother-in-law gifts from time to time to please her. As a result, the mother-in-law and daughter-in-law got along well. Renjin was shocked by the glass cup that Jiang Shangxin threw. She did not expect her daughter-in-law, who had always been polite, smart and elegant, to do such a crazy thing. She thought that the glass cup would be thrown at her face. She only relaxed a little when the cup went past her head and smashed against the wall. She stood motionless for a moment and then, like a bull enraged by red silk, or a firecracker that had been set ablaze, she broke into a rage. Jiang Shangxin, are you crazy? Do you know what you are doing? Is this how your parents taught you to be a person? Renjin slapped Jiang Shangxin's face. She tilted Shangxin's head to the side and dodged this fierce attack. How dare you throw a glass at me? You just sent my son to prison and now you want to throw a glass at me? Then you can take away all the assets of the Jiang family? Jiang Shangxin, let me tell you, it is not that easy. Renjin raised her hand and slapped the other side of Jiang Shangxin's face. Enraged by Renjin's behavior, Shangxin slapped Renjin's arm to the side. Jiang Shangxin was young and powerful. How could Renjin be her match? Renjin, who usually lived like a prince, was slapped on the wrist. As his body fell backward, he lost his balance in his high heels and fell to the floor with a crack. This time Renjin truly felt pain from the fall. The grief and indignation in her heart, as well as the endless grievances, suddenly exploded. Renjin sat on the ground and began to cry loudly without caring about his image. Jiang Shangxin, go ahead and hit me. You can kill me here today. Renjin said in a sorrowful voice, If I die, there will be no one left in the Jiang family. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. Dragon Pool, alive, dead, dead. Zhu Lu was sent to prison and persecuted by you. Now you want to kill me as well. Jiang Shangxin, you are the jinx of the Jiang family. How much do you want to harm the Jiang family before you are satisfied? With a stern expression, Jiang Shangxin stared at Renjin, who was bawling his eyes out on the floor. She said coldly, No one wanted to send Jiang Zhulu to jail. He sent himself to jail. He has done so many evil deeds and they will be dug out one by one. Just wait and see. Very soon, you will know how many disgusting things your precious son has stained his hands. Impossible. Ren Jin shouted. Zhu Lu would never do those things. I know his character. Even though he is a little extreme, he is a good person. His company donates to charity every year. He even adopted many children in the poor mountainous areas. Zhu Lu donated the living expenses and school fees for those children. Xianxia's mouth was full of bitterness. She said in a mocking tone, I know these things better than you. This is what he used to show off when he wooed me. Which woman doesn't want to find a loving man to spend the rest of her life with? Because it would make her feel that he is so loving to others. He is only wholeheartedly devoted to his wife and her family. She didn't expect that it was just a piece of sheepskin that he wore on the outside. It was a layer of gold that he put on his face. Deep down he is a hungry wolf. He is a devil and a scumbag. Marrying him is the most regrettable thing in my life. Xianxia. Tears streamed down Ren Jin's face as he looked at Xianxia and pleaded, Xianxia, no matter what, you have to save Zhu Lu. Please help me save Zhu Lu. His father is no longer around, he is my only relative. Ren Jin crawled up from the ground and strode toward Xianxia. Thump. Ren Jin knelt down in front of Xianxia. Pangxin, I beg you. I will kowtow to you. I will apologize to you. You are a woman too. Can you take pity on an old man like me? If I don't have my son, I won't be able to live on. I will die. Xianxia, can you take pity on me by saving Zhu Lu? Xianxia looked at Ren Jin, who was crying and begging bitterly. She felt very upset. Ren Jin was born into a good family. She was also a woman who came from a big family. However, she had suffered all kinds of setbacks during this period of time. First, her husband disappeared mysteriously after he went out. Until now, not even his corpse had been found. Then her son was taken away by the police. There wasn't even anyone to save him. She used to be extremely proud. However, she didn't hesitate to trample on her dignity. Now she was just a pitiful woman. A mother who prayed for her son's health and safety. Xianxia squatted down and lifted Ren Jin's arm to help her up. Ren Jin knelt there and refused to get up. No matter how hard Xianxia tried, she couldn't get up. Xianxia didn't force her anymore. She looked at Ren Jin and said, I can pity you. However, I will not pity Zhu Lu. He has to bear the responsibility for whatever he did wrong. If all the sins committed by the children could be forgiven because of the kindness of their parents, the world would have been in a mess. Xianxia. Ren Jin gritted her teeth and said, Don't force me into a dead end. Xianxia looked at her with a serious look on her face and said resolutely, I can tell you honestly that I will not save Zhu Lu. I will not send any lawyer from the Longtu group. You better pray that I don't send any lawyer. If that's the case, he might still have a chance of survival. If I were to take action, I would only wish for his death. The former chairman of the Longtu group, Zhu Lu, was arrested by the police for a crime of intentional homicide. Zhu Lu is the son of the founder of the Longtu group, Qiang Longtan. Qiang Longtan disappeared mysteriously. The police suspect that Zhu Lu killed his father in order to climb up the ranks. From the 4 talents of watching to the murder suspects, mental emptiness is the biggest incentive for rich kids to commit crimes. Bam. Lan Shanggu switched off the television. He pushed his chair away and stood up. He paced around his luxuriously decorated office. He held a cell phone in his hand. However, he didn't make the call. After hesitating for a long time, he grabbed the car key and walked out. Lan Shanggu went to the garage and chose his favorite military Hummer. He opened the door of the Hummer, started the engine and rushed out. Screech. Lan Shanggu drove the car to the entrance of an old house. Just when he was about to get off the car and press the doorbell, a bright yellow Lamborghini rushed over. The sharp head of the Lamborghini and the front of the Hummer stood side by side. A young man with long hair sat in the driver's seat. The young man looked at Lan Shanggu, who was pressing the button, and said with a smile, I was wondering who it was. Brother Lan Shanggu, you are back. You are a rare guest. Lan Tingyue, the son of Lan Shanggu's 4th uncle. He had been studying in France and had only returned to the country after graduating a year ago. He didn't have a formal job. He drove his luxury car around watching every day, drinking and flirting with girls. From time to time he would do something out of the ordinary. Because he was the youngest boy in the Lan family, he had always been loved by everyone. As a result, he developed the habit of looking down on others and rarely putting them in his eyes. Ever since Lan Shanggu separated from the Lan family, he had never returned to the Lan family's old house. Lan Shanggu had only seen Lan Tingyue twice at the Blue Mountain Club. It was the first time that he happened to bump into him at his doorstep. Lan Shanggu smiled and said, "I came back to talk to Grandpa about something." "Talk about something? What is it?" Lan Shanggu smiled and said, "Kids shouldn't ask about this. Go back and rest early." Lan Tingyue sneered and said, "Lan Shanggu, if you still have a bit of backbone, hurry up and scram. Don't let me see you in the Lan family." "What? Back then you wanted to ride on someone else's coattails and even didn't hesitate to separate from the Lan family, making the Lan family a joke in the eyes of outsiders. When I came back from studying abroad, do you know what I heard the most? Why did Lan Shanggu separate from the Lan family? Did the Lan family mistreat him? Lan Shanggu, don't you have any shame? Back then, in order to earn more money, you cried and shouted that you wanted to separate from the Lan family. Now that you've separated from the Lan family and you're in trouble outside, you come back to ask for help?" Lan Shanggu looked at Lan Tingyue thoughtfully and asked, "Are you done?" "I'm done. You're no longer a member of the Lan family. So, go wherever you want to go. Whether you live or die, whether you eat meat or drink porridge, it has nothing to do with the Lan family." Lan Shanggu nodded and started the Hummer again. After pressing the reverse gear, the Hummer quickly backed off. "I used to say how powerful the Lan clan's Lan Shanggu was, but now it seems that it's just a spineless coward." Seeing that Lan Shanggu was reversing the car and preparing to leave, Lan Tingyue's heart swelled up infinitely as if he had just won a battle. The Hummer that was reversing suddenly accelerated. The tall front of the Hummer ruthlessly rolled towards the sexy butt of the Lamborghini. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.